Welcome to the April 18th, 2016 voting meeting of the Pine-Richland School Board. We'll begin with a pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call, Ms. Williams.
Dr. Banyas?
Here.
Mr. DiTullio?
Here.
Mr. Sundo?
Here.
Mr. Kashani?
Here.
Ms. Dawson? Here. Ms. Goebel? Here. Ms. Johnston? Mr. Lyons?
Here.
Mr. Stegman?
Here.
Thank you.
Before I begin my president's statement, the board had an executive session to meet regarding a student matter prior to the onset of this meeting. And we're going to begin also asking for a moment of silence. On behalf of the Pine-Richland School District family, we'd like to take a moment of silence in remembrance of 8th grader Brandon Cugini, who passed away at his home this weekend. The loss of one of our own can trigger many emotions, questions, and concerns from our entire school, especially from our students. Pine-Richland activated its support team and has school personnel and counselors available for students and staff who may need or want assistance following this loss. We would like to pass along our deepest sympathies to his family members. At this time, please take a moment of silence in his remembrance. Thank you. I'm going to make a brief president's statement. This is regarding the transgender issue. In the last two meetings, we heard from many of you. We heard many people dissatisfied with the current situation, how it came to be. We heard that many of our constituents feel as though they've been talking to a wall and wish to engage the community more. I sense a frustration of what appears to be a glacial pace at which we may be considering this issue. We also heard opposing legal arguments. We've heard conflicts of privacy rights, parental rights, civil rights. We met and heard from two of the students involved, and I believe their presence and their speech significantly elevated the discourse of our discussion. We as a board are focused on what works for our community, but we're mindful that the consideration does not take place in a vacuum. Many school districts are also wrestling with this. State legislatures around the country are just wrestling with this in Washington. We are mindful that any decision we make may be overruled by a higher governmental or legal authority. To date, that has been somewhat motivating the board's glacial pace, so to speak, we had a desire to carefully consider this issue, make sure that we hear both sides, to make sure we hear all sides, actually. And we are going to have an educational meeting on Thursday with a medical expert to give us some additional background. We are hopeful that many of you concerned about this issue will attend this informative session. Also tonight, in our student staff services meeting, we may begin to outline the mapping of how we may discuss the policy decisions. So we'll hope you stay tuned for that. For tonight, we'll be asking for the names and addresses of all of our speakers so that we can record them. Correspondence, Ms. Williams.
A thank you letter from Next Tier Bank was sent to the board. Ms. Sarah Libby sent an email regarding National Honor Society. The following people emailed the board regarding restroom, locker room, and shower use practices: Lisa Ivanko, Chris Griffin, Jack Miller, Lori Miller, Chris and Sue Brusalis, Holly Muchnock, John Rudolph, Emily Willard, Denise Kerr, Rob and Shelley Rinaldo, Anita Malara, Jen Humenick, Edward Monahan, Nathan and Stacy Long, Kelly McGee, Amy Nichols, Dawn Rucker, Elizabeth Satina, Sherry Tupper, Kathy Hilton, John and Heather Elston, Christine Miles, Carol Loisel, Leanna Murray, Lisa Hogan, Julie DiDiano, Christine Black, Todd and Kristen Kraus, Katie Kimmel, Elizabeth Casario, Todd and Rebecca Karsher, Chris Snyder, Amy Snyder, Joe and Maria Hudak, Spencer and Therese Allen, Jennifer Neal, Stephen Miller, Kevin and Peggy Chan, Julie Schonbachler, Marie Fa, Christy Keener, Sally Beatty, Chris and Shelley Bruff, Bonnie DeLuca, Matt and Jennifer Hay, Leslie Miller, Susan Martinez, Kathleen Goring, Ryan and Dana Milady, Tracy Sentimbrino, Cheryl Stewart Miller, Gary and Luce Campbell, Victoria Hall, Beth Hackman, Keith Loisel, Fiore Londino, Rose Morris, Kayla Williamson, Denise Reidenauer, and Michael DeLuca.
Item 1.03 is our recognition of visitors. Anyone who wishes to approach the board, please do so. We'll ask you give us your name and address and your connection to the district.
Good evening. My name's Christina Avalone, and I live at 330 Ivy Drive in Gibsonia. The Pine-Richland School District has a grand and honored history, I discovered today. Single-room schoolhouses gave way to a district with 6 appealing school buildings. The district's first graduating class, I found out, was the class of 1958, and coincidentally graduated 58 students. Today, Pine-Richland High School graduates more than 360 students. Reminiscing is always a great time to reflect on our past and envision our future. I envision a future that still holds integrity in high regard, but I wonder, does it matter anymore? When I learned of the bathroom issue at Pine-Richland, I was shocked, to say the least. Bathrooms have always been based on anatomy. I was astonished to hear Pine-Richland's superintendent decided to change this policy that has been in place since, like I said, 1958. Pine-Richland has violated our trust, my right to direct the upbringing of my children, and the bodily privacy rights of my children. But more than that, they did it secretly. They determined that bodily privacy in locker rooms and showers was so meaningless that they could simply redefine the word woman on a locker room, open the doors to biological males, and not even tell the students or the parents of that drastic change in what expectation of privacy now existed. Then I find out that Pine-Richland School Board, you had no idea about the policy either. This board must reverse the superintendent's breach of the public's trust. You can do that tonight. This board must and can respect the dignity of all people, whether they identify with their biological sex or not. Kids who feel they identify more with the opposite biological sex than their own should be treated with kindness and respect. This does not require eliminating the right to bodily privacy for any of the students, though. We all know that our expectation of bodily privacy is different. It's different depending on where you are. It's different at my house than at the beach, where I assume members of both sexes will see me and I will see them. However, in restrooms and locker rooms, showers and hotel rooms, on school trips, biological sex and our expectation of bodily privacy from the opposite biological sex, that's all that matters. As a mom, the thought of girls showering, changing clothes, and other vulnerable moments in the bathroom with biological males, that outrages me. Our children, minors, should not be exposed to seeing the opposite sex anatomy in our schools' restrooms, locker rooms, really anywhere else. I wonder, though, how did we become the bad guys? Because we want bathrooms and locker rooms to be designated based on one's anatomy? The issue at hand is we have a superintendent who disguised a policy as a practice and snuck it into place without proper board approval or even universal board knowledge. This was done without discussion or parent involvement. This was done, now we have board members trying to do the right thing and call for a vote. In return, they only receive harsh criticism from their peers, which makes me wonder what those members are trying to hide. We have parents stepping up, getting involved to protect the privacy of their minor children, and now they are being made out to be the bad guys. This is backwards. We have been engaged in these discussions for over 2 months, and still no action from the board. We do not need another meeting. We need action in response to our request to maintain the privacy and safety of our children. In order to respect the bodily privacy of everyone, you, the Pine-Richland School Board, have the right to reverse that tonight. There's
Ms.
no
Avalone,
law.
please summarize.
There is no law that requires Pine-Richland to ban biologically distinct restrooms and locker rooms. Why this right was taken away without school board, parental, or student knowledge demonstrates a severe lack of regard for the board, the parents, and the students of this district. However, you can reverse that tonight.
Thank you, Ms. Avalone.
Hannah Reiling, 4116 St. Thomas Drive. Hello, my name is Hannah Reiling, and I am a current senior here at Pine-Richland High School. I plan to attend the University of Pittsburgh in the fall as a Nordenberg Leadership Scholar and a member of the University Honors College. Before I begin my main argument, there are 2 things I must establish between me and everyone else in the room. First, let me mention that, if you haven't noticed, I am a student. In decisions like these, we so often forget the people that decisions actually affect. So here I am today, standing in front of you, as a student who is passionate about this cause, as someone who doesn't think that a school board of adults or angered parents should have the right to make this decision for me as a student, someone who is experiencing this issue firsthand. In fact, I wouldn't even call it an issue. This has not been widely talked about in school among students, and quite frankly, I think that I could safely say that a large majority of the student body has noticed no difference and that this situation has been greatly blown out of proportion. Secondly, I would like to establish something that seems to be forgotten in all of this debate. Transgender students are no different than your child. They are simply students seeking to receive an education. By continually labeling them as transgender, it immediately places these students into another category, labeling them as the other. However, I would like to make the argument that these transgender students are simply students, simply children who, just as your children do, deserve their basic, incontrovertible human rights. While I value what others have to say, it is important in this debate to take a step back and realize what it may be like from their perspective, to feel as if the entire Pine-Richland community is standing against them as a human being, rather than rallying around them in support. With those basic frameworks established, I would like to move on to my main argument. From reading comments online and watching previous school board meetings, the main issue that seems to appear is relating to privacy. I would like to say that, first, I wholeheartedly respect everyone's desire to allow their children their basic right to privacy and understand that privacy is one of the rights being most attacked in today's society. However, I do not think that by allowing transgender students to use the bathroom of their chosen sex limits other students' right to privacy. In women's restrooms, there are stalls that provide a means of privacy. In men's restrooms, I understand that there are urinals, and you may think that having a transgender student next to your son will put him in danger in some way. However, I have 2 responses to this argument. First, there are stalls available in every men's bathroom that your child is free to use in order to receive adequate privacy. Secondly, and this relates to both men and women, having a transgender student in a bathroom does not increase the likelihood of danger because, as we already established, transgender students are simply students. Next, though I firmly believe that the bathrooms were fine the way they were before and that the majority of students did not have objections to sharing the bathrooms with transgender students, I understand that there were a few complaints in this regard. In response, executives in the school chose to change the previous staff bathrooms to new labels of unisex. On an announcement, it was made clear that these bathrooms were available for the use of all students. With this new arrangement in place, I, quite honestly, see no room for the lack of privacy or increased danger arguments that are so often in place. If your child feels uncomfortable, they simply are able to have the free choice to choose to use the unisex restrooms in order to be offered an entirely private restroom where no one else is able to enter while the student is using that restroom. Lastly, I've heard several suggestions that transgender students should be required to use another restroom that is separate from the rest of the student body. While in essence, this sounds as if it is a viable solution to appease both parties, this is far from the truth. I would like to remind you of the momentous decision of Plessy versus Ferguson. In this decision, the Supreme Court established the doctrine of separate versus equal, which in context meant that separating or segregating black and white individuals was valid provided there were equal resources. However, in doing so, it opened up the opportunity for increased discrimination and segregation. Recognizing the error and danger in this decision, the Supreme Court later overturned it during the Civil Rights era with Brown versus the Board of Education. I'm sure that there are parents sitting here thinking that a similar doctrine can be applied to their children having to use unisex bathrooms rather than regular bathrooms if they feel their child feels uncomfortable with using the regular bathrooms. However, there is one fundamental difference: choice. As human beings, we all have the right to make choices, and in the solution already implemented, your child does have the choice. They're able to use the regular bathrooms they already provided more than adequate privacy and security in, or they're able to choose to use the unisex bathrooms for complete privacy and security. However, in making the claim that transgender students should use a separate bathroom so that all other students are able to use the regular bathrooms, it directly parallels separate but equal. I am here today, standing in front of you, firmly saying that separate is not equal. As individuals, these students deserve the right to choose what bathrooms they use rather than being forced into separate accommodations. I urge you, members of the school board, parents, and community members, to stand in unison and support all students, including transgender students, by providing them with their basic human rights. Allow our school district to be a pioneer of human rights and place the appropriate value on freedom of choice. Allow us to stand together and say that separate is not equal. Thank you.
Thank you. We ask that you try to keep your time to around 3 minutes, please.
Good evening. My name is Kathy Hilton. I live at 3857 Kim Lane. I had 3 children who were in the elementary, middle, and high school here in Pine-Richland. I wanted to use a few minutes to comment about something having to do with being uncomfortable, which I am right now. When my children began in middle school, we began to have discussions about privacy and respect. And one of the things that we talked about was something I like to call graciously providing privacy when there really isn't privacy. I'd like to give you an example. When my children began changing with other students in a locker room, we discussed that they would see parts of the human body that would normally be covered up, and they would be showing their body parts too. I wanted them to know that they could expect many different types of differences. There would be some students who had physically matured much sooner or much later than others. There would be students with some kind of physical challenge or some difference, maybe as a result of a medical condition or some sort of infant surgery. There would be some students more comfortable with showing off their bodies than others would be. And there would be some students more openly discussing topics such as their bra sizes or menstrual cramps, and others that were much less comfortable with those discussions. So, we discussed that my expectation for my children was that there would be no criticism, no commenting, no comparing, no bullying, or for that matter, no complimenting related to the things that they saw or heard in private spaces. My expectation was that my children would extend this feeling of privacy when there was not privacy, that other students who were near my children would feel safe to be there, knowing that there would not be any discussion about their bodies or their conversations during or after with other students. I think it was my job to help my students, my children, understand that they set the tone for how they wanted to be treated by showing respect and providing privacy to their fellow students when there was not privacy. I think that having respect for their own bodies extended to having respect for the many different kinds of bodies they would encounter. My last statement is that I wanted to say there are many reasons why students feel different, especially in middle school and high school. And there are many reasons why some students may feel uncomfortable. It is a very difficult job for the school board, the school administration, and the superintendent to work to provide students with a safe environment where they do not feel bullied by their fellow students or the staff or the community. It was 6 years ago when I was a parent volunteer, the student director on the Pine-Richland crew team, that I had the opportunity to work with the administration back then to address some questions regarding a transgender student who was interested in being on the team. I was very impressed with the degree of respect that was shown by the Pine-Richland administration, by the student themselves, and by the whole team. I hope the board knows that I support their efforts to hear all concerns. I also recognize that it's their responsibility to treat transgender students properly by supporting their stated gender identities. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Anybody else wish to approach the board?
Hi, my name is Elizabeth Hassett. I live at 300 Cloverdale Drive in Wexford. I also, like Hannah, am a senior here at Pine-Richland, also attending the University of Pittsburgh in the fall, and will be on the track to go to medical school. I also believe in the equality for our transgender students. Here at Pine-Richland, we like to call ourselves the PR bubble, where it oftentimes becomes a joke that our school and community are not significantly diverse. However, we cannot make this issue comical. Our school district is a leader within the Pittsburgh community, where many school districts around us are influenced by our decisions as we are theirs. The parents, board members, and faculty who are restricting gender identities and rights of other students are simply entertaining the fact that our school district cannot and does not want to support the differences of others, which does not only affect Pine-Richland, but surrounding school districts as well. In addition, these discussions are bringing to light the differences of my peers and are perpetuating bullying within the school environment. As a student, and with the fullest respect to all opinions, it is sad to see that a large number of parents are not taking this opportunity to teach their children that diversity is okay, that being a part of the minority is okay, and most importantly, that it is okay that the world is full of different races, religions, and gender identities. By taking actions to restrict the rights of transgender students, Pine-Richland would not be fulfilling its responsibility to support all students. Although our Pine-Richland bubble may not be composed of all of these differences in great amounts, we as a moral society cannot continue to perpetuate these negative attitudes that create more harm than good in the lives of our peers. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi again, it's Dave Keener from Gibsonia, 1013 Victoria Place to be exact. Pine-Richland School Board, you have a tough and sometimes thankless job, there's no doubt about that. And the amount of time that you sacrifice to participate and contribute to the betterment of our children's overall academic needs is honorable and it is appreciated. While I do not agree with a couple of you regarding your stance on the issue of privacy for our kids, I still appreciate your efforts. That being said, it has been months now, and I think it's safe to say that the cat is out of the bag. The community knows and fully understand what was done so quietly, without our permission as parents and without the pre-approval of the board. Dr. Miller, I acknowledge your authority over these schools, but I do not respect or appreciate the way that you went about it. You do not have the right or obligation to take privacy rights away from these kids. They were not there for you to even consider. And these schools, our schools, they belong to us, the community. Furthermore, you put this board into a horrible position, and you have ruptured the trust and confidence that we as parents once had in this administration. School board, we have spoken as a community for, again, several months now, and it is unanimous. We all want the very same thing. We want our students, you don't want privacy?
No, we don't want privacy, we want equality.
Okay. We all want every student to be able to use the restroom, the locker rooms, and showers with a guarantee of privacy. It is also unanimous that accommodations should be made for any student that does require a higher or different level of privacy. As a community, we are even acknowledging that it might come at a cost for new construction. But what we can certainly tell you is that the one form of currency that we will not be using in exchange will be the privacy rights of our children. We can both respect and protect kids who don't identify with their biological sex while still maintaining and recognizing that privacy between the biological sexes is still necessary and important in these private facilities. The lack of action on this issue is dividing our community. We are begging you to reinstate what was once assumed by parents just 3 months ago. We are respectfully requesting the following, and preferably in this order. First, stop the practice of allowing males into female facilities. Second, develop a policy that ensures privacy for all students that is based on biological distinction. And last, make accommodations for any additional privacy needs. And in closing, if you are unwilling to formalize a privacy policy, then we ask for the support of the board to pass the opt-in form tonight so that we, the community, can move on and so that we can also have a voice in this matter once and for all. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Hello, my name is Erica Ridenauer. I am a student at Pine-Richland. My address is 612 Garden Way, Wexford, PA. I am a human being, as all of us are. I am no different than any other person in this room. I am a young woman. There is diversity in this culture, and we have to. There is diversity in this culture, and we have to come to a point where we have to. There's diversity in this culture, and we have to come to a point where we have to embrace it. Gender is a personal sense of self, and gender is a personal sense of self, and we all have a gender. It's our hearts and our brains that do the talking. Being able to go into a bathroom of our gender identity is important because it shows true value of the people that we are. I am looking forward to Thursday. Please open your hearts and minds because education is key, as well as compassion. Keep on being you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Craig Russell. I'm at 206 Logan Road, and I have 2 children in the district. And I'll preface what I'm about to say first with respect to the transgender students in question. This is not a referendum on transgenderism. It is not a vote on whether we accept or reject transgenderism as a concept or a life or as a choice. In fact, I think that it's very important to recognize, members of the board, members of our community, that transgenderism is not the issue at all, actually, in this discussion. And I think that it's very important that you listen to the, I think, very simple analogy that I'm going to give you maybe a shift in perspective, because I recognize how emotionally charged all of this is. But I think if you distill this down, it becomes fairly simple, notwithstanding the complexities that lie behind the choice that the transgender students have been confronted with. When we talk about parental rights, you know, societally, we have established that your biological anatomical gender defines which bathroom you should be using. And similarly, something as innocuous as a rated R movie, and I hope you won't think me too provincial or prudish when I say this, but if somebody came to me and said, Mr. Russell, we'd like to take your daughter to a rated R movie where there's going to be full frontal male nudity, or if they came and said, Mr. Russell, I'd like to take your son to a rated R movie where there's going to be full frontal female nudity, if they're not 18 and able to decide to go to that movie on their own, whether you agree with my choice or not, my choice would be to say, I'm sorry, you can't take them to see that movie. And quite honestly, unless this board and the school can guarantee me that if you decide that biological males can go into the women's bathrooms or locker rooms, and conversely, biological females can go into the men's bathrooms and locker rooms, unless you can guarantee me with absolute certainty that my children aren't going to be going to a rated R movie, then I don't believe that you have the right to decide unilaterally for me what my interpretation of what's acceptable for my children ought to be. And I certainly don't think you have the right to do it in private. So, you know, I'm not going to belabor this too much longer because I know you're going to be hearing from a lot of people, but at the end of the day, again, this is not a statement about transgenderism. I applaud that we have a society that allows people to make that decision and to pursue a life of whatever gender they choose, but I deplore a society that, under the auspices of equality, is tyrannical. This is the tyranny of equality, quite honestly, because you're telling me that all students are equal, but what you're demonstrating is that some students are more equal than others. And I applaud that the school is tackling this issue, but I hope and I pray that you will arrive at a place where you preserve the rights for all students. And if that means separate but equal, we're confronted with a couple of realities here. Despite how much we'd like it to be otherwise, right now these transgender students are different. It's not a pejorative, it's a fact. And while that fact exists, you have to deal with it as a fact. You can't live in a utopian dreamland where we decide that, notwithstanding what the physical realities are, we're going to decide to stick our heads in the sand about it. And that's what you're doing right now. And that's really all I have to say, but I hope you make the good choice.
Thank you, sir.
What he said. I'm Dean Allen, 100 Applewood Drive. I have 2 children in the Pine-Richland School District. I just want to make a couple of quick points on this. I want to start with, I'm 7 feet tall, and this qualifies me for the basketball team. And if I wore a sombrero and a poncho, does it make me a Mexican? Point is, if I believe it, then you should too, right? This is about replacing reality with ideology and demanding that everyone accept it. Is it moral to gamble privacy and security of our children to satisfy the behavior and emotions of a few? Good laws and policies treat people equally, not their behaviors. The reason laws and policy exist at all is because behaviors are not equal and must be treated differently with kindness and respect. The truth is, there are good reasons based in public safety and security. No one's rejecting transgenders, and the common solution is simple. Provide unisex bathrooms for transgenders who find it necessary to use facilities that differ from their biological sex. The idea that transparency was avoided exposes the idea that there's an agenda to be advanced. What about the rights of the majority? And final point, political opposition is not bigotry. If that were true, then everyone is guilty.
Thank you, sir.
My name is Christina Seghetti. I live at 205 Crawford Court in Mars. I don't really have anything prepared, so bear with me if I get a little off track, but I'm a senior at Pine-Richland High School, and I am very bothered by the way that this is a controversy, because I think all of us express ourselves in our own ways, and we all have bodies also. And by this age, if you're a male, you understand female genitalia. And if you're a female, you understand male genitalia. And at the end of the day, we all have a body, and all of our bodies are there to serve us and help us get through life. Bodies don't automatically mean sex. And I think a big problem here is a lot of parents are upset about locker rooms and privacy, when at the end of the day, if we're saying a male can't be in his boxers in front of a girl who's in her bra and underwear because that's inappropriate, that's sexualizing our bodies and making them into something that they're not. So that's one thing that I think is food for thought. And the second thing that I'd like to say is a few people have been up here saying that, oh, well, we shouldn't say that some people's equality is more than ours. I completely disagree, and I think that if we're being honest, not allowing transgender students to use the bathroom they identify with is taking away their freedoms. They deserve the freedom of choice to use whatever bathroom they'd like, as do students who aren't transgender have that choice. If you aren't comfortable going into the women's restroom because you fear that someone who is biologically male will be in there, then you have the option to use the unisex bathroom. So we are given that choice, and transgender students should be given that choice as well. They should be given that equal choice. So by saying that they're being more equal because they're given the same opportunities we are is just absolutely ludicrous to me. And I'd lastly just like to finish up by saying that I applaud the Pine-Richland School for making this a rule, because we are all humans and we all deserve the same opportunities and choices to express ourselves. And it's frustrating to me to think that some parents have a problem with other students being who they are because their own kids might be uncomfortable with it. But really, it seems like it's parents against students here. Us students are standing up here saying, we don't mind it, it's fine, we're comfortable and we have the other options and it's okay. And then the parents are coming up here saying it's not, when they're not the ones attending the school and they're not the ones who are facing this on a daily basis. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, my name's Eric Beatty-Kiefer, live at 256 Fox Meadow Drive. I come before you with a concern that I have, okay? My son's graduating high school this year. I have a daughter that's in 10th grade. She's a swimmer. What I'm gonna read to you, and I'm just gonna sum it up very briefly, this is from the Daily News, New York Daily News, dated February 17th, 2016. Washington man uses women's bathroom to test transgender ruling. I know he was not. I said a man dressed up. Here's my concern. Can you guarantee my daughter's safety if a high school boy decides to dress as the opposite sex and he goes in to the locker room because there's been a ruling passed that they can use the opposite from what they're biologically set at, that they can go in to my daughter's locker room and she's getting undressed and a high school boy walks in to test this ruling. And what if he decides to do something that is unspeakable? My concern is, how do you protect my daughter, the other parents that have daughters and sons, from that situation occurring? I don't want to see this be experiment, and then, God forbid, my daughter is on the receiving end of something that is unspeakable for any father to have happen to their daughter. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Hi, my name is Rachel Hilton. I live at 3857 Kim Lane, Gibsonia. I attended Pine-Richland. I went through elementary school here, middle school here, and high school here. I interacted with a lot of different kids, and I've gone through college and grad school, and I heard about the issue, and the reason I'm back is because of my support for the administration and what they first ruled, and my concern about how the community is addressing this issue. As other individuals, other students have spoken who currently attend this school, there have been steps you've taken in order to allow everyone to have a comfortable environment. If someone's child is uncomfortable going into a restroom where there may be someone who is transgender, equality in terms of everyone can use the gendered bathroom they agree with, there are unisex bathrooms in which they are allowed to use if it makes them uncomfortable. It is allowing everyone to have a comfortable space. I agree that it sounds like there are a lot of parents who are concerned about their children's privacy issues. However, I would also like to put out there that at Pine-Richland High School, we have a swimming pool. At the swimming pool, women wear bathing suits and the boys wear bathing suits. Boys go in topless and the girls are wearing bathing suits. When I was there, you were not allowed to wear bikinis. I know you had to wear a one-piece, but a one-piece doesn't cover everything. And that is a boundary of privacy that is pushed. Societal-wise, it's fine. But in a locker room, in a bathroom, specifically in a bathroom though, you're not seeing the other person undress or change. In a bathroom, you are in your private area. There are stalls. You don't know what genitalia the other person has unless you ask or unless you invade their own privacy. My issue is if you change this ruling so a transgender individual has to use a bathroom that's different based on their sex, then you also have to consider what if a transgender individual has a sex change? Do they have to report it to you and then report it to their peers as well? That they have had that surgery and they are now sex different? Because that's a major issue you also have to think about in the future, which shouldn't be a problem. An individual who is transgender identifies as a gender, and they should have the right to do so, which you are providing them that right. So, in my opinion, if you as a parent also are concerned and you feel like your child shouldn't be going to that R-rated movie, have the conversation with your child about the unisex bathroom if it makes them uncomfortable, but don't take away the rights of another child to use the bathroom that they're comfortable in.
Thank you.
That's really all I have to say, so thank you.
My name's Eddie Bozar. I live at 104 West Wild Cherry Drive, Woodside Estates. You guys are a TV commercial for North Catholic, I swear to God. After listening to this, I'm going to tell you a real life story. My daughter Taylor goes to Pine-Richland High School. She came out of the ladies' room recently and found Jacob standing, fixing his hair. And I said to her, "What did you think of that, having this transgender person standing there?" She said, "Dad, it made me feel really uncomfortable, and it feels like it violated my privacy." Key word, violate.
Sir, we'd like you refrain from identifying students in this situation.
I didn't identify, I just said Jacob. That's a first name.
That's identification, sir.
Okay. Well, anyway, So that's what happened, and I'm just telling you that she felt very uncomfortable with this. Well, some kids might feel this is comfortable, other kids feel it's uncomfortable. And I don't think it's the responsibility of the kids who feel uncomfortable to seek another bathroom when they've been using the same facilities since they were this big. Okay. And I also like to understand what has taken the board so long to respond to this, and has anything been done with Mr. Miller, who made this decision obviously by himself? I run a big business. And you're basically running our business, which is a school for our children and for the taxpayers of Pine-Richland. And I just think this is such an easy issue. If you were born a boy, you're a boy. If you're born a girl, you're a girl. And, you know, if there's bathrooms available for them, I don't see why we have to have bathrooms any which way they decide to go that day. It's just ridiculous to me. Go Trump, 2016.
Thank you, sir. We ask you to speak on this one time, please.
Hi, my name is Jackie Vanko. I live on 515 Langdon Drive. And the point here is being made that this isn't an attack on trans students, but obviously that's how these transgender students are feeling. And if you feel that way, it's going to be perceived that way no matter what you say. There's a lot of concern that your students, there's a lot of concern that you're worried, parents here are worried for their students' well-being, but transgender parents are also worried for their students' well-being. And truthfully, if we use common sense, most can assume that transgender students are going to be bullied more so than regular students because they are different, and that is just something that goes on in history. There's an issue of safety for them, and maybe even more so of anything, because bullies do exist in this school. No matter what we try to do, they do exist, and I would know personally. My sister has had this experience of being bullied in the bathroom multiple times, and she wasn't even out as transgender at the time. That's an issue. Transgenders are no more female or male than anyone else who is here, and they are not a safety issue no more than anybody else is here. I mean, there's going to be bullying, there's going to be getting picked on, no matter where you are, but that doesn't change if you are male or female, a transgender is always going to be male or female. It's not going to change the difference. They're not going to pick on each other or anything. Okay, thanks.
Thank you. Any? Okay.
Hello, my name is Glenn Ridenauer, 900 Eastwood Street. Just want to address a couple points that some parents just recently made. Mr. Bozart, who was just up here a moment ago, it's his opinion that it comes down to a boy and a girl situation. Science doesn't actually support that. I think we're going to learn about that maybe in a couple days on Thursday. Mr. Beatty-Kiefer, I believe, made the point that it was talking about a situation that occurred in Washington. Maybe some of you have been following this or learning about this, know that wasn't a transgender person. It was in fact he was what the term is called cisgendered, I guess, identifying by his natal birth, by his natal genitalia, I guess, for lack of a better word. And that he was not identifying as a transgender person. Now, what do you do with people like that who want to push the rules, who want to push the situation or the situation? You take care of them like you would any other time. There's nothing that would have stopped that guy from going in before the ruling that happened in Washington. Nothing would have happened. I mean, he could do that then. He could dress as a woman. He could accost people in the bathroom. So it's just somebody trying to make a point, trying to negate the ruling that was made in Washington that was a positive ruling for equal rights. So let me just continue with what I have written down here. I'm the father, actually, of one of the trans kids at the center of this current situation. We are well into our 3rd year that my daughter has been using the high school facilities she identifies with, the girls' rooms, the girls' restrooms, and the changing rooms. The 3rd year, okay? Guess what? Nothing negative has happened. In fact, to the contrary, she's been able to settle into who she is, who she feels she authentically is and is, without harassment or bullying or abuse on anybody's part, and certainly without the circus that's come to town here in Pine-Richland over the last month, which now has resulted in her being outed to the larger body of her peers. Of course, she was never made the point of trying to hide who she was. And she decided she wanted to stay here after she transitioned. But I believe that part of the reason that nothing bad has happened is that she's gone about her business with relative anonymity. I'm thankful for 2 things. First, that when my kid came to me and said, "Dad, I'm really a girl," that we didn't end up on the doorstep of a therapist, maybe like the one who testified at the last meeting, who probably didn't understand exactly what was going on. In fact, and instead we were able to find empathetic professionals with resources who truly understand the situation and who assisted us through a challenging time. So we never had a confused and suicidal child on our hands. There have never actually been any struggles. We really haven't met upon any big struggles here in the district so far. Well, I suppose until now. And let me tell you, it doesn't require for her brain to be fully formed at age 23 to know that this is the right path for her to be taking. She's been saying it consistently with her actions since she was about 3 years old. So she was able to express herself on a personality basis. The other thing is that we live in a society where mob rule doesn't carry the day. That just because the majority might be reacting in a big organized fashion and lots of applause when somebody says something they agree with, then in reality they just don't understand, and which many, by the admission even of one of the dads that I talked with after the last meeting, they have no intention of learning about the situation. They have made their mind up already. So it's a good thing we have those in charge who do take the time to study the issues and determine that the majority will be, that the minority will be better protected when lots of fanfare isn't made. And those people's privacy is taken into account. Again, I thank the members of the administration and the school board for not making a hasty judgment about the bathroom policy, and hope you will at least wait until hearing what is said at the special committee meeting this week before taking action. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
My name is Scott Gagliardi. I'm on 5714 Meridian Road. I've spoken several times at past meetings and come to realize that a significant number of residents are watching these board meetings online as well as attending the actual meetings. I realized that this meeting would be a great way to communicate to the residents as well as just the board. So please get a pen and paper ready to write down a website address I'd like to share. Wanted to take a moment to introduce residents to this newly opened website. It's been open less than a week by a group of concerned parents of Pine-Richland students. The website is a place to keep up with developments regarding our efforts and to protect the privacy rights of our children, along with our rights as their parents to ensure our children are raised in a secure environment. The website is www.prparents.org. That's www.prparents.org. This site's been open for less than 5 days and received over 26,000 visits, averaging well over 4 minutes per visit. That's approximately 4 times longer than a typical website. It's a strong indication of intense interest. I thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Hi, my name's Jay DiNucci. I'm at 207 Pinecone Court in Wexford, Pennsylvania. I came here tonight not expecting to speak, but as I sit here, I hear a lot of passion, and I would also say a lot of compassion from everybody that speaks. And when I moved back to this district 17 years ago, that's one of the reasons why I came here. I heard that this school district takes the needs of every child that's here and helps them fulfill what it is they're capable of fulfilling, regardless of needs. Unfortunately or unfortunately, with a senior, an 8th grader, and another individual that has graduated and moved on, I've had to take advantage of those opportunities for special needs. Special needs for my daughter that had some learning challenges, and we got support through the school. Special needs for a son who was diagnosed with ADHD, and we got those needs addressed. The school district didn't adjust everything for my 2 children's needs. They came and rallied around those children, and they supported them in a way that was best for them. I have another story. In 2010, my wife and I were called to the middle school, and it was explained to us that our son at that time in 7th grade had been caught on school security cameras inside the girls' bathroom after hours. After hours in terms of school was over, but they were there for basketball practice. As my wife and I came in, my son was there with a security person, with a principal, with a guidance counselor. And it was explained that our 7th grader had been questioned prior to us getting there. And the questions were, why were you in the bathroom? No needs, nothing special was explained other than just horseplay. He was asked how long was he in the bathroom. He said 10 seconds. We were explained, my wife and I, and had to buy off that if in fact my son was not telling the truth and that he was in that girl's bathroom for longer than 10 seconds, that we would be faced with the decision of the school of expulsion. It was found that he was in that bathroom for less than 10 seconds, thank God. There was not another individual in that bathroom. There was not a girl in there. They were simply messing around, playing a game of hide and seek. He went in, looked in the stalls. Let's fast forward 5 years, 6 years. We're now saying that it's okay, that there is no determination as to who can use these bathrooms. I don't understand why we have students in this school district that have special needs, but yet we're going to try and address those needs by affecting the other 1,400 students that don't have the same needs. I did a quick walk around the facility before I came into this meeting tonight, and by estimation, there's 12 men's room and 12 ladies' room that have approximately 4 to 5 stalls in them each. That's a ratio of about 1 to 50, 1 stall to 50 students, in both male and female. We also have 6 unisex bathrooms. I don't understand why this big debate is going on and why the special needs of a few have to be imposed on the privacy of many. And the last thing that I will say, and I say this sadly, and I mean it from the bottom of my soul, I say it to my kids often when they get out of the car and I take them to things, but trust is a horrible thing to lose. And Dr. Miller, you were a trusted leader of this organization, that you run this school district, you've let our community, and you've let our students down. And the board, you have the opportunity to make the decisions that you think are best to continue to service all needs of the students and the parents in this community. And I hope you do the right thing. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Gabby Palmieri, 1013 Cider Mill Drive. So I don't like talking in front of people, and I don't have anything prepared, and I just wanted to say that I came from an all-girls school actually this year, and whenever I came to Pine-Richland, I was astonished by the diversity here, and I loved that people were so open to the transgenders, and I just thought it was great. And I know some of these transgenders personally, and in no way do I ever feel in harm or awkward around them. And neither do my peers, because this was never brought up in school before these meetings, which are great. Thank you for your time. But I just feel like it's kind of being blown out of proportion, and I don't have any problem with them. And knowing these transgenders, I just believe that they would never cause me any harm. And I'm glad that, like, they're here and they should be able to use the bathroom, because it's just accepting their body, and they're not like showing us anything we shouldn't be seeing. It's just they're using the bathroom, they're doing their business, and they're leaving, and that's okay to do. So I just hope that everyone, like even the girls that feel awkward maybe in these situations, will find another resolution. And yeah, so thanks.
Thank you. Does anybody else wish to approach the board?
Sally Ahmed, 418 Heights Drive. I come from a very conservative and strict family. When they first heard about this, they weren't very open to it at all. But after they understood that a transgender identifies by their gender, and these transgender students, my 2 transgender friends, they aren't any less of a woman than I am, so why shouldn't they be able to use the bathroom of their choosing? Equality is a human right. Why should they be denied those human rights? Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else wish to approach the board? Thank you. Thank you, everybody, for speaking. Item 1.04. Oh, my apologies. Didn't see you.
Hi, Holly Muchnock, 406 Langdon Drive. I'm sorry. I didn't plan to get up and talk. I don't really want to be hurtful to anyone's feelings, certainly. But I did want to express 1 or 2 thoughts. First, when I heard that Dr. Miller had been hired by the district, I was actually excited because I went to high school with him. And so there was somewhat of, I think, a naive familiarity, thinking that I might know where he stood on issues, or had any idea of really what was in his heart. And I think ultimately, the care and concern and love and grace that we show any of our children should be paramount in any of these decisions. But I feel as though you all have an opportunity to extend grace and love in a way that is mixed with leadership and accountability. And I am relying on each of you to be able to make wise, thoughtful, caregiving decisions about these very sensitive and I think provocative issues that are maybe coming to our school earlier than some others, but I certainly don't think that it will end with our school district if we don't believe as a community that the decisions that we're going to make here shortly are not going to impact, NA or Seneca or Hampton or any of the other schools on the heels of this. We're sadly mistaken. And second, I wanted to also indicate just a little bit of frustration when this issue came to my knowledge. It was new. I had not heard anything about it. Communication that I received came via text and phone calls from concerned friends and neighbors. And when I started to reach out to the board, I gotta tell you, I honestly felt a little bit surprised that of as many emails that I sent, only 2 responded at all to acknowledge the fact that I had reached out. One of which actually encouraged me to come to an informative meeting on Thursday and didn't happen to mention that there was a board meeting to precede it where I might have an opportunity to share my thoughts or present my own opinion. And for that, I'm a little bit discouraged that it wasn't made more obvious more quickly that there would be opportunities to speak, to voice concern, and that Additionally, there may be an opportunity on Thursday to hear from medical professionals who I would presume would try to sway my opinion and educate me on how I should feel about this issue. And I want to consider the fact that I may have been an informed individual already who has had years and years of time to identify my viewpoints on this topic, whether I agreed or disagreed with the decision to let transgender students use the restrooms of their choice, but that I might be a thoughtful adult who had made decisions based on my own values, and that they were just fine, that I would be able to own them and express them and share with you, that I do feel that you all as leaders in our community and as decision makers for the board are challenged with something very unique in a very special time in history of our school district. I would encourage you to certainly either consider the ability for us to return to boys using boys' rooms and girls using girls' rooms, or unisex of their choice, but that certainly we could have some thoughtful dialogue, not trying to push our opinions or sway one another to be more informed, but own the fact that there are certainly plenty of adults in this, not only in this auditorium, but in this community that couldn't be here for one reason or another, that may very well believe that it's certainly not appropriate. And I would just challenge you to give that some serious thought, and to use your leadership in a way that would also be showcasing thoughtful leadership, certainly, but that you would allow people to have their own opinions based on their faith, based on their values, and that would be enough.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Laurie Lynch, 1018 Victoria Place. I'm here as an outsider. I do not have any children in the Pine-Richland School District. I'm a taxpayer from Richland Township. And I would like to agree with the girls. Girls, you're a credit to your English teachers. Your girls who were prepared. You're very good, great public speakers. And I would like to agree with one young lady in green. You do live in a bubble. School is a bubble. I agree with you. I have children in college, 3. I have one outside in the world, living in the world, who's 25 on his own in Chicago. And he deals with the real world and says school is vastly different. He will agree with you. They all do. School is a bubble. I do not envy this board at all. You have a very difficult decision to make. As an outsider, I would like to point out one thing, is sitting in the back, listening to it. I'm listening to this, that this is not really about transgender, not transgender. Ladies, I have to say, you are the ones who are bringing that up. What I see is I see parents, mostly parents of daughters. I have 2. If I had children attending these schools, I would be paranoid for them, scared for them. Because as the gentleman who brought it up, that because of a rule, the boys can go into the girls' bathroom. They don't have to sign anything, that as I understand this, ahead of time, that I'm a transgender, I want to use the ladies' room. This doesn't give the girls the right to scream when a boy walks in the room, or put up a argument that I don't want a boys in the room, because he is entitled to be in that bathroom. Think of it if a year from now, the first day of school next fall, in math class, and a boy slips into the seat behind a girl and says, "Hey, Amy, remember last year when I was in the showers and saw you naked? When I was in the bathroom?" What does that do to that girl's self-esteem, her body image of herself? You recently had a suicide in this district. I cannot imagine what the family is going through. What will that girl go through in her mind? The ladies behind me that have all been speaking are all seniors. They're probably 18, 17, heading off to college, heading off into the real world. They seem to be pretty well prepared. I have yet to hear from someone younger than 15. A school should be a safety bubble to where we teach our children how to deal out with the real world. My 5 children have to deal with the real world. During school, they were safe. They could find safety in the ladies' room to have a good cry after an argument with a friend. The guys could go in and blow off some steam, yell, be obnoxious with each other, as guys are in the locker room. The transgender students should be cared for, and they should be admitted to wherever they want to. But you have to be very careful about breaking those rules. Kids break rules in schools all the time, every day. That is what school kids do. They push limits. We as parents have to teach our children. We have to teach 3-year-olds that it is not safe to play on the streets and why. That pot on the stove is hot and why and what happens. When the kids go off to college, we have to teach them, don't pick up a drink. If you put it down from a party, someone may have drugged it. I don't know what you're gonna do. I don't envy you in your seats. Please keep in mind every single possible scenario, mostly the bad ones, because I think that's where all the parents' hearts are here, especially the parents. You know, you kids are happy with what you're going in your school, that's great. But as a parent, we worry about you every day because we hear what happens on the news. We hear about rapes, we hear about beatings up, we hear about a lot of things. That's our concern as parents. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Joe Casario. I live at 334 McIntosh Drive. I support the transgender children completely. I am someone who believes in live and let live, and I support you. But I believe everybody has the right to feel how they feel and act upon that. So I will support anything you guys want to do, but realize that I have to support my children too. And I can tell you, in the community...
Joe, we can't hear you.
Oh, I'm sorry. In the community right now, I just said that I support the transgender children and everybody that supports them because they are being who they are. I can't make them be anybody except who they are. I can't make my children be anybody but who they are. And as much as I support you, I support my children too. So please... When the applause starts, it just feels so divisive. It feels so us against them. And every time the clapping starts, I think, oh, don't clap, don't clap. Because that feels like we're being divided. And Mr. Miller, I gotta tell you, I think where it's coming from. And I support you. If you need somebody to stand up and speak for you, I'll be that person. You have my address, you have my number, I will do that for you. But I have to do it for my children too. And I love the bubble. I love the bubble. The bubble gives us the ability to be here at 9 o'clock at night talking about which bathroom we're going to use. When in the rest of the world, people were thinking about, am I gonna live until tomorrow? Am I gonna eat tomorrow? Am I gonna drink tomorrow? So we talk about the Pine-Richland bubble. Well, the Pine-Richland bubble is covered by the United States bubble. We've got it pretty good. So the bubble gives us a lot of things. The bubble may not give us everything, but we are afforded a lot of things. And sometimes they go our way and sometimes they don't. But we are here speaking of these things when there are amazingly horrible things going on in the world. And I would just like to just bring up one more point that a friend of mine sent an email to a board member, and the board member brought up the fact that, you know, there's going to be some lawsuits if it goes the other way, if it goes where the transgender kids would have to use unisex bathrooms or the bathroom that they're biologically born with. Dr. Bandies, you and I live in that world. We live in the world of constant threat of lawsuits. And if you or I said, well, I'm not going to do your surgery, I'm not going to do this because I'm worried you're going to sue me, we've done the wrong thing. We haven't helped somebody. Sometimes you have to face the fear of what might happen if you feel it's the right thing to do. Please, whatever decision you make, please do not make your reasoning the threat of a lawsuit. I want to hear exactly how you feel. Don't hide behind it. Just tell us how you feel, and then we'll move on one way or another. But please don't hide behind a lawsuit. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Amy Nichols, and I live at 1019 Van Velster Drive. First, I'd like to commend the students who had the courage to come up and speak in front of everyone. And the only thing I'd like to say about that is until you're a parent, you can't possibly understand what we're going through. The only question I have that I just want to put out there, because it's going through my mind and I feel like it could be going through other people's minds as well, is as you decide about this very difficult situation, that you think about a policy, if it is to be kept as it is, would affect the entire district, and I'm assuming that it would go into all of the schools, elementary, upper elementary, middle, and high school. And my question for you is, as a parent who has the ability to decide if my child goes into a single stall or a multi-stall, if there's 21 students and 20 of us demand that, I'm not sure how the educational time won't be lost taking one at a time down to wherever the single stall in the elementary is. That's the only question that I have in my head. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
Hi, my name's Frank Lazzaro. Like Jay, I hadn't planned on speaking. Jenny Drive, Gibsonia, but I'm compelled to do so. I'm the kind of guy that likes to cut to the chase and get right to the point and so forth. And what I'm seeing here is nobody's bringing any common sense to the table. I hear the side 4 shared bathrooms trying to put words into my mouth, our side's mouth. You're discriminatory, you're this, you're that. You're a fear monger, you don't know what you're talking about, all these different things. I'm hearing my side complain about Dr. Miller, he's fired, blah, 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 this, the board won't move, the board won't do this, the board won't do that. Really, you have 2 options here. You either build and allow a separate bathroom for the transgender students, which really is the right answer, or you build bigger, more massive bathrooms to handle the kids that you claim should be the ones that are outplaced because they're feeling uncomfortable, since they're the ones that have been using the same bathrooms all their lives. Now that they're uncomfortable, they can be displaced to other restrooms. Build those. That's it. You can make the decision tonight. Raise the taxes, whatever you got to do. You can either have that set of bathrooms for the transgenders or this set of bathrooms for 200 or so kids that aren't comfortable sharing the bathrooms with children of the opposite sex. I mean, do we really have to keep going on and on and on about this? I don't know that we do.
Thank you, sir.
Hello, my name is Teddy Malabicki, and I'm at 203 Weatherburn Drive in Wexford. And what I'm not sure I understand is why we're really having this conversation right now. Well, I think it's wonderful that as a community we've come together. I'm new to the community, and I think it's great that we're having these discussions just so that people can feel part of the community and connected to the community, and we can be both supporting our children and the transgender kids. But here's the thing. The transgender kids are not yet a protected class. And there are communities in the country right now that are enacting rules that are being overturned by the state legislatures because they have not yet determined how to properly and effectively transition to a place where we're protecting the class, but also protecting citizens. People are still doing studies on this. The Supreme Court, it certainly hasn't reached the Supreme Court yet. I don't believe that there's any Pennsylvania legislation enacted yet, legislation enacted yet, excuse me. And I don't think that that Congress has yet come up with any answer to this problem. So why are we trying to solve a problem yet that the country has not yet effectively figured out how to safely and properly do? And I think that when you have a lot of discourse in a community, you look to the laws. What does the law state? Are you breaking the law by enacting these rules within our schools that the state or the country has not yet established, and that's where you have to look. And of course there's going to be lawsuits. That's how the Supreme Court makes their decisions, when something makes its way all the way up there. And until we've gotten a broader picture, I don't think that we should be making any rash decisions. We should be doing what needs to be done slowly, methodically, and properly to protect everybody's rights. Thank you.
Thank you. Does anybody else wish to approach the board? I don't want to make this mistake twice. Okay. Item 1.04, recognition. Ms. Hawthorne.
Thank you. I'm pleased tonight to announce that 5 Pine-Richland High School students earned 2016 National Scholastic Art Awards, and they include junior Kayla Duffy, who earned a national gold medal in art, senior Alaska Antestinis, and 9th grader Cameron Cantor, who each earned national silver medals. We also have seniors Julian Brooks and Sarah Libby earning national silver medals for their art portfolios. And just to give you an idea, this year across the U.S., students submitted nearly 320,000 pieces of art and writing samples, and only 2,400 received medals. So congratulations to our students. Also, several students participated in the PMEA All-State Conference in Hershey from March 30th to April 2nd. High school choral director Lee Rickard said this is the most students from Pine-Richland to ever be selected in a single year. For orchestra, we had juniors Julia Solomon, Alex Campus. For jazz band, we had senior Aiden Lakshman. In concert band, we had senior Will Newell. Also for wind ensemble, we had junior Andrew Gaffey. In chorus, we had junior Samantha Duzlewski and senior Madison Engel and sophomore Sophia Hudock. So very impressive. Also, several students represented Pine-Richland at the PMEA Junior High District 1 West Choral Festival, April 8th through 9th. At Trinity High School, they included 8th graders Marissa Del Vecchio, Marissa Frick, Harrison Gonzalez, Sadie Jeter, Olivia McGeary, Hayden Unitas, and 9th graders Brian Bales, Seamus Daniello, Abigail George, and also Tyler Hepler and Isabel Mushwick. So very big congratulations to all of those students. Thank you.
And I'll jump in here. The next award or recognition is for work that Ms. Hathorn does as our Director of Communications at Pine-Richland. And so there's an award of excellence in the 2015-16 Pennsylvania School Public Relation Education Communication Contest. Pine-Richland was one of only 5 in the state to earn an award of excellence in the annual report category. Judges gave the publication high marks for writing, design, and professionalism. So congratulations to Ms. Hathorn for that significant work. Also on Saturday, our high school students had prom. And Mrs. Bowman, principal at the high school, became aware of a transportation concern. Buses, coach buses, were to take students from the high school down to their prom event. Around 4 o'clock, when they learned that the coach buses were not able to, due to an issue with that company, Dr. Pasquinelli reached out to Student Transportation of America. At about 4 o'clock, buses needed to leave within about an hour and a half, hour and 45 minutes. They were able to get all the buses here to the high school to transport all the students to and from the prom without incident. Incredible work by STA in pinch hitting when we had a problem. So thank you to them.
Thank you. Item 1.05, minutes for approval. Motion to approve the April 4th, 2016 meeting minutes as attached.
Second.
The item has been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say yes.
Yes.
Yes. Opposed? Motion passes. Strategic plan update, Mr. Stobenner.
Thank you.
In keeping with our theme of this reviewing the strategic plan, technology is actually addressed in two areas, finance and operations and teaching and learning. In the finance and operations, we are continuing working on our long-term goal, which is to build a secure, reliable technology infrastructure, flexible to meet the district's needs through 2025. We will continue this work this summer in several recommendations to the board through the next few months, which will focus on server virtualization, and that is really strengthening the computers and the systems that run the network. We are also in the process of the middle school recabling project. We had a very positive bid meeting today. We had 12 vendors came and were interested in getting more information for that. We have also continued work on E-rate Category 2 funding. In conjunction with the rewiring and cabling of the middle school, we will continue our work to strengthen the wired and wireless infrastructure in both the high school and middle school this summer, and also the wired infrastructure at Eden Hall. This will go well with the conjunction of the E-rate Category 1, which will give the district a stronger connection and pipe to the Allegheny Intermediate Unit's RWAN. In conjunction, there will be several items such as firewalls and other items that will be brought forth for consideration. These are all areas that were originally identified in the Synergy IT report. We've just continued our work on strengthening our infrastructure and moving forward with those goals. The other aspect and long-term goal falls under the teaching and learning. Teaching and learning long-term goal is to integrate technology tools into courses and activities to extend or improve the teaching and learning process and promote innovation in that process. We are doing this by utilizing the infrastructure previously mentioned. One of the items actually for board consideration tonight would be the interactive displays. These interactive displays will be introduced over the next 3 years and as part of the capital funding plan. In conjunction with that, we are also looking at end user devices, specifically in the K through 6 elementary schools, focusing on different devices and looking at what would be the best fit to utilize the new infrastructure, and of course, how to utilize the Google Apps and how that can positively impact instruction and in the schools as well. So that is a very brief overview of all that's been going on.
Thank you, Mr. Stoberner. You know, I love the stuff at the top because it does connect so well to goals that were identified 2 and 3 years ago in the Synergy IT report incorporated into our strategic plan, so it's wonderful to see progress. For me, what's really exciting is getting the point where we have an infrastructure reliable enough that it's fulfilling its real purpose, was not just to move bits around, but is to enhance learning. And when you mention the learning and teaching goals, can we see some stuff next year as we start to use these applications and devices?
Most certainly.
Great.
Any other questions for Mr. Stobenner? Finance, Mr. Sundo.
Item 3.01, motion to approve the financial reports dated March 31st, 2016, and to approve the accounts payable dated April 18th, 2016, in the amount of $975,385.88, and paid accounts for April 2016 in the amount of $7,713,497.35 as listed.
Second.
The item has been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say yes.
Yes.
Yes. Opposed? Motion passes.
Item 3.02, motion to approve the April 2016 budget transfers in the amount of $60,424.
Second.
The item has been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say yes.
Yes.
Yes. Opposed? Motion passes.
Item 3.03, motion to approve the engagement letter from Echo Financial Products LLC in the amount of $7,350 to prepare derivative valuations and fair value services required by the Government Accounting Standards Board.
Second.
The item has been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say yes.
Yes.
Opposed? Motion passes.
Item 3.04, motion to approve a resolution authorizing the incurrence of non-electoral debt for the purpose of refinancing the debt service savings that the district's share of the A.W. Beatty Career Center's School Revenue Bonds Series of 2008.
Second.
The item has been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say yes.
Yes.
Opposed? Motion passes.
Item 3.05 is an informational item. It lists out the remaining Finance Committee meetings we're going to have up until the final vote on the budget. The nearest one is next Monday at 6 p.m., where we're going to get an update on the budget and discuss the budget at that time.
Thank you, Mr. Sundo. Ms. Dawson, academic achievement.
Item 4.01 is a motion to accept in accordance with Board Policy 702 with sincere gratitude a donation of $200 by the Swears family for the high school special education department.
Second.
The item has been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say yes.
Yes.
Opposed? Motion passes. Thank you, Ms. Dawson. Buildings and grounds, Mr. DiTullio.
Item 5.01, excuse me. Motion to approve the proposal to replace the small selection section of telescoping bleachers at the Pine-Richland High School as attached. This was discussed 2 weeks ago, and I believe the total cost, Dana, was $31,000. Motion.
Do we have a second?
Second.
The item has been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say yes.
Yes.
Opposed? Motion passes.
Item 5.02, motion to approve the proposal to replace the clock system at Richland Elementary as attached. This was a failing clock system, and I believe this is about $17,000 in expenditures that is encompassed in the capital expenditures.
Second.
The item has been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say yes.
Yes.
Opposed? Motion passes.
Item 5.03, a motion to approve the purchase of custodial supplies through the CoStars Cooperative program from the following vendors as attached.
Second.
The item has been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say yes.
Yes.
Opposed? Motion passes. Thank you, Mr. DiTullio. I will take the student services, Ms. Johnson's absence. Item 6.01, motion to approve the student attendance and application of the Student Discipline Code for French students travel to France in April 2017 as described in the attached field trip request form. If international events occur that raise a threat level to the United States and/or United States tourists in Europe, this motion may be rescinded. A summary of the trip is listed in public content.
Second.
The item has been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say yes.
Yes.
Opposed? Motion passes. Item 6.02, AFJROTC, Cedar Point. Motion to approve the student attendance and application of the Student Discipline Code for JROTC students to travel to Sandusky, Ohio on Saturday, May 21st from 7 a.m. to 10 p.m. as described on the attached field trip request form.
Second.
The item has been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say yes.
Yes.
Motion passes. Item 6.03, I will leave this to Dr. Miller.
Thank you. I talked with Mrs. Johnson about sharing some comments at this point in the agenda. Over the past few public meetings, I've had the opportunity to listen to comments from parents, students, and other community members. I have reviewed the email sent to the district, and I want to assure the community that I am listening. I know that it can be frustrating to speak and not receive an immediate response or engage in dialogue. From my perspective, it can be challenging to listen, especially in the face of misinformation, without responding. I'll share some thoughts with you this evening to clarify information, provide explanation in some cases, and respond to some of the questions and comments that I've heard. For the near future, upcoming meetings, I will plan additional comments within this public meeting process. Although I'm referencing my notes, I assure you I am speaking from my heart. First, I want to share a belief statement. The top priority and challenge for school districts is to develop and maintain a safe and positive learning environment for all students. At each of our schools, we take a variety of proactive steps each and every day to foster this environment. Part of this process is understanding that our students have diverse needs. With 1,500 students at the high school and 4,600 in the district, we have a responsibility to respond to unique needs, whether they're academic, social, physical, or emotional. We accomplish this challenge at the school level by building relationships with families and working through a variety of sensitive topics. We have a responsibility to maintain strict confidentiality and respect the rights of our students and families. I do recognize the focus in some of the comments and emails and that they relate to how or why we are facing this topic. I know that some are trying to assign blame or responsibility. I can understand that perspective. We are not here facing this topic at this time through a specific decision. However, it doesn't change the question and topic in front of us. We are in a similar position to other school districts at the local, state, and national levels. Since we're talking about a very small number of students, I am not comfortable as superintendent discussing some of those aspects and details in this setting. My reason for that is simple. I will not discuss details that can be attributed back to a single student or group of students, so small a number that it could be considered a private education record. The March 11th letter that we sent has received attention. It has garnered criticism and praise. I want to assure you it was thoughtfully developed and intended to inform families of an important and complex topic. The letter was meant to be clear. Since it is a new topic for many, we wanted to introduce transgender youth to our families and situate that topic in the broader context. There are new stories and developments seemingly every day in this area as a spotlight is being brought to this topic. In this immediate time frame, the discussion is focused on the bathroom at the high school. An excerpt from the letter stated, and I repeat only to be clear, quote, "In our high school, transgender students have been able to use a private bathroom, such as the nurse's office, a single-room unisex bathroom, or the bathroom of their gender identity. At this time, this does not extend to the locker rooms, athletic teams, or overnight trips. At this time, it does not currently extend to Hants, Richland, Wexford, Eden Hall, or the middle school. However, we do understand, and I understand, that future decisions could have broad implications. As Dr. Banyas mentioned in his comments at the beginning, boards and communities across the country are wrestling with this topic. Mechanisms are in place in the district for misbehavior. For example, it has been suggested over the past few meetings that a male student might wake up in one morning, declare himself a female, and then seek access to female facilities. This is not accurate. This entire topic reflects an intensely personal and confidential process over time and in collaborations with families at the building level. If we were to have a student engage in misbehavior, we would work through the discipline code and handle it through our buildings as we typically do. We do not have evidence of this type of misbehavior at our high school. like so many other sensitive topics, our staff works through the information on a case-by-case basis. We have also heard a range of legal commentary over the past few meetings. In this area and others, I have read extensively and sought counsel from a variety of professionals. From this, it is my perspective that it is unsettled within the legal landscape that is still being developed. In Pennsylvania, we have the Pennsylvania Department of Education. I have discussed this topic with the high-ranking official at PDE. PDE, Pennsylvania Department of Education, does not currently provide specific direction on transgender students. As a result, they would defer to guidance from the United States Department of Education and the Office for Civil Rights. That guidance from OCR indicates that Title IX does apply to school-based decisions for transgender students, which is consistent with the current practice at the high school. However, as has been pointed out, that guidance from OCR is being contested in certain courts and areas of the country. In fact, a specific case of a high school transgender student's access to a bathroom of their gender identity is currently being considered in the U.S. Court of Appeals for the Fourth Circuit. Related to this topic has come from speakers in public meetings the potential for financial sanction for a Title IX violation. For awareness, the total federal revenue for Pine-Richland for 2014-15 was approximately $1.4 million. I don't indicate this amount for any reason other than to put the information out there accurately. The majority of the revenue relate to Title I funding, special education grants, and food services. If, at some point, the Office for Civil Rights, a decision were issued against the district, we as a district would have time to consider adjusting a practice before money would be withheld. Given these and many other factors, my recommendation to the board at this time is to maintain the status quo at the high school while the topic can be considered in more depth. I believe that we have enough single-stall bathrooms at our high school to support any student who prefers more privacy. I am not trying to minimize or understate the topic in any way. I'm sharing my professional perspective and that of other members of our senior leadership team and the high school administration. I believe that this topic will require time for study, for discussion, for discernment. There are a variety of considerations. We have a process in place here for that type of discussion. For Pine-Richland, potential policies are often guided through the Staff Services Committee. In this case, one of the first steps of the Staff Services Committee would be to map the steps, the information, the decision points, the data, in order to work through a tentative timeline. Later in tonight's agenda, we'll talk about an upcoming Staff Services meeting and an adjustment to that agenda in order to map that process. But given the pace of change in the legal landscape, I believe that patience and deliberation are important. It is our hope administratively, and I believe I can speak for the majority of the board, when I indicate that the community will have a voice in the discussion, as we have evidenced by listening to those voices through this meeting process. Input will be sought. As mentioned in the letter, it's my hope that this can occur, these discussions, in an environment of respect. The Student Services Committee meeting scheduled for Thursday here in this high school auditorium is just one step in that process. I believe that that educational component and focus on understanding is an important foundation for potential policy discussion. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Miller. Staff Services, Ms. Goebel.
Item 7.01, motion to approve the personnel items as attached.
Second.
The item has been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say yes.
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 Opposed? Motion passes.
Item 7.02, it's an information item. The Pine-Richland School District recognizes the following teachers who have achieved tenure. Let's see, Caitlin P. Roth and Stephanie Shankar have both been recognized and will receive their tenure. Item 7.03, no discussion, correct? Motion to approve as a second reading, Policy 918, Title I, Parental Involvement. It's in
Second.
Second.
The item has been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say yes.
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 Opposed? Motion passes.
Item 7.04, motion to approve the first reading of School Board Policies 103 and 103-1.
Second.
The item has been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say yes.
Yes.
Opposed? Motion passes.
And 7.05 is motion to approve the staff attendance and application of Dr. Dave Christophic, middle school principal, Mr. Ashley Boyers, middle school assistant principal, to attend the National Forum Schools to Watch in Washington, D.C. from Thursday, June 23rd through June 25th, to accept the middle school School to Watch Award and participate in professional development sessions.
Second.
The item has been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say yes.
Yes.
Opposed? Motion passes.
And 7.06, it's an information item. A staff service committee meeting has been scheduled for May 2nd, 2016 at 6 p.m. to discuss staffing updates as well as policies, and these policies are actually changing,
Yeah,
correct?
my recommendation, I talked with Mrs. Goebel last week. The staffing update typically occurs at this time. We've just finished a process that involves many parts. We have recommendations for our teachers and paraprofessionals moving into next year. We also want to talk a little bit with the board about technology staffing related to some of the decisions we made last year with an outside staffing provider. So the staffing update, I would say, would probably take about 30 minutes. My suggestion is that we postpone the policy discussions on 806, 822 into zeros in order to be able to dedicate about an hour or so to the topic of transgender students, the process, the timeline, the inputs. This would, since it's already on the calendar and it is in the near future, that would give us an opportunity to have that type of discussion in committee, which is typical for something like that. So I put that out as a recommendation.
Thank you.
Any objections from the committee members?
So just a clarification, you know, when you refer to the issue to discuss transgender, would this, I mean, I think what we need to discuss is more policy on restroom use. Will that be part of that discussion?
Correct. That's what I discussed with Mrs. Goebel.
Okay, so policy on restroom use.
I think it would be broader than that. I think it's around the whole topic of this issue.
Of what issue? I'm just confused about the,
So,
I mean, is it like a special needs policy that we're creating, or is it a policy on restroom use?
I think that's what, my perspective, that's what needs to come out of the committee. You know, where and how does it fit in the policy discussion? What number or in what way is the topic considered? You know, my suggestion is that's exactly the kind of conversation that needs to take place in the committee.
Thank you.
Any other comments? Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Goebel. Operational Services, Mr. Lyons.
Item 8.01 is a motion to approve a renewal agreement with Sodexo with a guaranteed fiscal return of $45,000 for fiscal year 16-17.
The item has been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion?
Dr. Banis, I will say I will be voting no for this, frankly, because my kids don't like the food here. My daughter won't eat it, and my son, well, he'll eat anything, but he doesn't like it. So I said for them, I'm going to vote no. I'd like to see us have a real open, honest, perhaps examination of our food service provider next year. Or whenever that, I know there's I think a finite time that we've agreed to on this, so whenever that would be possible.
Any other discussion?
Dana, on that topic, you and I had a brief discussion about this earlier. This is a 5-year deal with an annual renewal.
Typically what happens at the state level, the state will provide a mechanism for schools to go through a proposal process every 5 years. Unless there's a large change in the federal law, then they would move us to a different timeline. In this case, this current year is the first year of a 5-year type agreement. Unless there was a large reason as to why we would need to reapply back to the state to move to a different timeline, typically the process is that you do that proposal, you go through that process, and then you have 4 annual renewals after that. So we would not be on a timeline to be doing that proposal process for next school year. That would have to be something that, if the committee would want to do that, we would probably have to somehow apply to the state to switch to a different timeline, and then we would probably have to justify that in some way.
So that's fine. You can expect my no vote for the next 4 years, too.
Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say yes. Yes. Opposed?
No.
No.
6-3. Motion passes.
Item 8.02 is a motion to approve the purchase of 90 interactive displays and 92 computers.
Second.
The item has been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion?
Again, I want to thank Mr. Stoberner and all the teachers, building level technology coaches, people who demoed units, provided feedback, the vendors who provided units. It was a very thorough process. It is a big expense. This is itemed in our capital budget, but I appreciate all the time to make sure that we're spending this money thoughtfully in a way that will be used in the classroom to expand student learning. So thank you all.
Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say yes.
Yes.
Yes. Opposed? Motion passes. Board business, review of board workshop. You want to do that, or you want Mike to do that? You want me to do
It
that?
could be anyone here, because we all participated, so.
Except me.
Sure, I'd be happy to. We have had a couple of board workshops each year for the purpose of strategic thinking. Tonight, before this meeting, the workshop was organized into the different committees, and there was an opportunity for a senior leadership team member to work with board member or board members to try to take sort of a 3-month, 6-month, 12-month look into that particular committee. We wanted to continue to focus on the strategic plan. One of the ways to do that is to ensure that we're communicating as a team, board team and an administrative team, on trying to keep that broad perspective. So it was great conversation. It was very much a series of small groups with an around-the-horn conclusion. So from my perspective, a very positive event.
Thank you, Dr. Miller. Item 9.02, the tabled item.
I would like to, excuse me. I would like to make a motion to remove this item from the table to open it up for discussion.
Second.
Okay, we'll need to move to a vote. Ms. Williams, I'd like to have a roll call vote on this.
Mr. Kashani?
Can I clarify?
The
We're voting
a vote yes is to remove it from the table to
And then we'll
discuss it.
And if it passes, well, then we'll discuss?
If the motion to table passes, then it becomes open for discussion and vote.
Okay.
If the motion to table fails, it stays on the table.
Just to correct your lecture, the motion to remove from the table.
Right.
There you go.
Okay. Yes.
Mr. DiTullio?
Yes.
Ms. Goebel? Mr. Lyons?
No.
Mr. Stegman?
No.
Dr. Banyas?
Yes.
Ms. Dawson?
Yes.
Ms. Johnston?
Yes.
Mr. Sundo?
No.
6-3.
Motion passes. The item is now open for discussion.
Anyone want to open?
I'll start
I'm
with a
happy to
question.
start. Go ahead,
What-
Steve.
What would you expect the next steps to be after a vote, regardless of the results of the vote? Or in both cases of the vote? What would you expect the next steps to be?
Who are you asking?
You, Ms. Dawson.
Oh, you're asking me?
Yeah.
I originally brought this up at the last meeting for the purpose of, as we've heard over the past several meetings, many parents still not, despite the fact that Dr. Miller did attempt, as he said, in his best way, to communicate to the parents, there still has been lack of clarity. There also has been not a full way for us as board members to truly get a sense for how parents, specifically according to their own students, as being, having, as very well expressed, parental rights over their students' privacy. So this would be a vehicle by which we could allow ourselves to prepare for the policy making that is ahead of us, so that we could get parents the voice that they need to provide for us enough information to see how many numbers of restrooms or accommodations or what type of policy would give us better information. So it would not change, it does not discriminate, it does not change what is currently going on. It is simply a vehicle to provide us with the opportunity for parents to sign it if they are okay with the way things are. And if they are not okay with the way things are, then they don't sign it. And that would give us information. So that is the objective.
So logistics aside, it's just a matter of gathering more specific information that would then be brought to a formal discussion within committee, or?
I would think that this would be very helpful information for the May 2nd meeting, to send this out and then to get some feedback directly from the parents, directly about their situation, and it would help us with our May 2nd discussion.
Thank you.
So to clarify, Therese, the intent is simply to poll their opinion and not, in fact, to enforce any of this. So if they give consent, don't consent, there's no action that the district will take?
Right, it's just to get information about, opting into what is currently being done. So in a sense, it just gives us a form of feedback. Yes.
But one of the problems I have with this form, analytically speaking, is the way it's constructed will skew results. So by merely not sending the form in, we don't know if that family got it, if they intentionally did not send it in. So it's going to skew it, and it could skew it the other way too, if it was worded a different way. So that's my issue with the way this particular form, it's flawed. And I also struggle, anyone who knows me knows I'm an engineer, and engineers always strive to find a solution. I am struggling to find the way this helps us achieve a solution as currently written.
Well, I would answer that by saying, currently we practice what's considered an opt-out forum or format. So for example, if, we just got a notification about the Olveus bully survey that will be done in the schools coming up in the next week or so. It was written, sent as an information item to parents, and it was stated that if you have any questions about the survey, that you can contact I'm not exactly sure if that's how it was worded, but it was basically said that that if you have any questions, that you can contact your student's counselor. What in fact we don't necessarily explain is that you can, I mean, we do say in the letter it is optional, but it's not stated if you decide to opt out, contact your counselor. It does say if you have any questions, contact your counselor, and it does say that the survey is optional. So it does skew that in that. So how many parents will call and say, so is it skewed, or is it, no, you got the information? So in my opinion, it is the same type of form, and it saves us paperwork, just like they do when they assume everybody's going to, look, let's put it this way. The restrooms were commonly understood up until just several weeks ago, okay, we'll call it a few months ago, were commonly understood as biologically distinct. And now people are just starting to really realize what it means. No, they are not necessarily biologically distinct. They are not defined by biology, because biology is not relevant in a restroom where it is not relevant to all students. So again, it is just a way of saying the expectation that you commonly had, so we expect everyone to do the bully survey, we expect that most people figured that the bathrooms were biological. And so that's why it's written that way.
I have two questions.
Talk in here.
Okay. I have two questions. So first of all, if we kind of reversed it and made it the opt-out, I would think that we would get a greater response from parents who do not feel comfortable, rather than parents that maybe don't care or don't know or aren't informed. So if we were really looking for results, they have their website, you know, click here if you want to opt out. It would be just as simple as the letters we've been receiving. But if we were to do that, how do we send it as a poll and not something that we have to enforce? Because I don't see how we can enforce it. If we're simply getting information and we want to see how many people are upset, how can we send it in a way that we're not legally bound to do it?
That's a very good point. I mean, you cannot enforce anything right now as it is, right? So again, opt in or opt out, just as it was explained. You know, we commonly look at opting out as the mechanism because we assume that most people are okay and trusting of what the administration is doing on behalf of the education, right? In this case, it is reversed because biological restrooms were the standard. See, so it's a reversed. So let me just say this before if everyone is uncomfortable with the way that an opt-in, I mean, it is reverse of what we're commonly used to, and I get that. However, if we do it the opposite way around, or unless we do it like yes, no, and we make sure we get it from everyone as reasonable feedback, maybe like you know, something electronic, we can discuss the merits of it even at the May 2nd meeting. But what I guess I'm trying to bring up is that I think it's a good idea for us to give parents an opportunity right now to weigh in, and to opt in would be the best way, in my opinion, because I don't think an opt-out basically defaults to assuming that everybody is okay with this, and I don't think that's what we're hearing.
Because it doesn't serve your purpose, Therese.
No.
Yes, no, that is true. And that's again, if we're going to be talking about this specific form, which you introduced at the last meeting, which we are, it is flawed. Now, if this would have come out of committee, Through a deliberative process, that would be completely different, but it did not. So we're discussing the way this form is worded. It is worded, if you do not consent, you do not need to respond. I don't agree with your assertion, too, that we assume currently that everyone is okay with what's going on. Obviously, that's not true. However, this is not a simple issue. And for those who try to make it out as such, they're wrong. It's a multivariable nonlinear equation, as an old engineer would say. And so, if we want data, right, if the purpose is to get data so that we can use to make an informed decision, then we need to have a better way to do it than this form. This will skew the results, as would an opt-out form would as well. I would argue that would skew it as well.
Yeah, I think there is a very great risk of misleading people, and we will only confuse people more if we were to send something out like this, by far. You know, I appreciate and understand families' concerns regarding this topic and the desire to have action. But what I'm also hearing is the need for greater education, understanding of both sides throughout this process. And we've identified as a board, and we identified it weeks ago, a process to do that. And it starts this Thursday. It started in our own meetings, in our conversations with each other. What I want to make clear is I don't know where the vote will go, but at least to people here or maybe on TV, that this document in no way represents the outcome of the board working together with each other in collaboration with the administration. And that's disturbing on a variety of counts. This was not the outcome of a policy deliberative process. It wasn't the outcome of board members working together to devise it. It hasn't undergone any attorney review by our solicitor or by any attorney as far as we know. We have no idea how it could be enforced or accommodated if that were to be the case. I firmly believe it certainly leads people to the impression that it will be. If I don't give my consent, and I give you a form telling you I don't give my consent, my expectation is quite reasonably that you don't allow such thing that I don't consent to. So it's, I think, a poorly worded document to solicit public opinion as well. The form also, I think, incorrectly and inflammatorily mischaracterizes and intentionally mischaracterizes the current practice of the school district, as including such things as overnight trips. It just doesn't seem like a good idea. Now, we could do it. We could switch it around and make it an opt-in, and as a lot of people in this district have been engaged in the past 2 weeks, we could launch, those of us who support it, those in the community could launch a big letter writing campaign and launch a website, and everybody will opt in. And, you know, I don't know that that's a productive use of the community's time. I don't think it's a productive use of my time. I don't think it's a productive use of our time. It doesn't advance our understanding of the issue. I can't think of something so high stakes and something so subject to misunderstanding, something that over the past few weeks we've heard so much need for being deliberative, slowing down, listening, reading what other people write carefully. That goes for me as well as the community. All those things suggest to me that it's not the time to, you know, stick the finger in the wind and see where things are blowing. I'm not sure what we would even get back in a properly designed survey, which this is not. I'm not sure. In fact, I'm convinced that what we get back wouldn't really be an accurate measure at any given time. It would change over time and probably isn't what should drive a board in the deliberations. There's a reason why there's 9 of us up here and not 22,000 people. in Pine-Richland. We are a representative democracy. There are a lot of things that are mentioned that we know because we paid attention to the details, read all the memos, and understand the issue, that are hard to communicate and that take hours. It's important we try to do that. But at the end of the day, we're a representative democracy. I'm not sure that taking a poll represents a form of leadership that I aspire to. So I don't support this as it's written right now.
I think that the main thing about this topic is this boils down to, this is a permission slip, which I've been signing permission slips for my kids since they entered school. In particular, we do have opt-in forms that we use in school. Yeah, athletics, you have to opt in. A kid can't just show up and play. When it comes to the health education, you know, or a PG-13 movie, my kid just couldn't show up. I had to sign the form. However, I do agree. I don't think that having a true opt-in gives us the best picture of everything going on. I think a form that gives both choices as an answer, and then you can weigh who answered this way, who answered that way, and who did not answer. And that would give you kind of more data on, on the process as well. But I think what this also would do is it would give the parents a chance to parent, okay? And we don't necessarily have to agree with the way that everybody parents, but certain parents will opt in to let their kids watch a PG-13 movie or a 10-day health seminar and health class. Some won't. That's their prerogative. If some parents don't feel comfortable with the current practice in the bathrooms in our high school, it's their prerogative to keep their children from that. And it's also their prerogative and ours as a school to have that information. Because we wouldn't do it in health class, we wouldn't do it in athletics, we wouldn't do it anywhere else. Again, when we hear the students speak and we understand how students feel, that's powerful from certain aspects. But the other thing I can tell you, when I was that age, I wanted to do a lot of things that my parents did not want me to do or did not let me do. And as I sit here now in my mid-40s versus when I was 15, 16 years old, I can tell you my parents were right a heck of a lot more than I was back then, although when I was 15 or 16, you couldn't have convinced me of that. So I think what this boils down to really is we have a permission slip and we have an opportunity to allow the parents to express their opinion. And I do agree. I think this needs, in my opinion, this needs to go to committee. I don't think a vote on this particular opt-in form, the way that it's written, would necessarily agree with what everybody has to say. But I can't understand for the life of me why we as a board wouldn't want the information truly of what the public is. You know, we get certain information from certain people. We've seen it this week, right? But if we get it from everybody, and if it comes in that it's a minority here, a minority there, then we have the true data. We also then can do something with that data. Do we need to make more private bathrooms? Do we need to make, are our accommodations fine? I mean, that's what it boils down to me. We are servants of the community, and a major portion of that community is the parents. They're the taxpayers, and they can tell us, hey, we want our kids to participate this way, or we don't want them to participate this way. I think that if the choice had been made to go through the deliberation as we are in the whole policy, from the standpoint of what was historically understood, that it was biologically based versus identity based, then I think that an opt-in form would still, or a permission slip form, would still be helpful in us determining where do we go with a policy moving forward. And I think that we have to develop a policy for our community, and this data will help that.
But can we send a form out that we do not have to enforce?
To whom are you addressing?
You, I guess you,
Well,
right?
that's a matter of what the form says, and is it referable to a policy decision that's made by the board. I think there's a demarcation which is becoming apparent between the collecting of information and the prescribing of a school policy. I have a concern which I would have apart from the content of this issue. If I think, I forget who mentioned it, but if someone is asked to consent, there's a supposition on their part that if they do not sign the consent, then their child will not be permitted to participate in a curriculum or an activity or something like that. I think before you would go down that road on a topic that I'm separate from the treasury, but using a school facility, you have to think about how your administration will go about implementing that. I mean, it's easy to say a kid cannot get on the bus to go to Carnegie Museum if they don't have the permission slip. It's very difficult for administration to say to watch and determine for a given student, I don't have a permission slip from you that says it's okay to use this room or to use this bathroom. You will need to consider how your administration is going to implement anything that you do that has on-the-ground implications. That should, if you're looking to collect data, data can be collected in any number of ways, whether it's part data, opinion data, preference data. You can do a lot of things like that, but I don't think they should be phrased in the manner of a I do or do not grant permission, whichever way the default lies.
You're saying a survey, but not necessarily something that
There's, what you do is ultimately up to you in terms of collecting data on opinions and all that sort of thing, and what you do with it. But I think you should separate the notion of collecting information, collecting data by any form of survey method from the idea that that there will be immediate consequences to a person's response to the survey. And I recognize what Therese said about it was not intended to change the current practice in terms of what the district, what is generally allowed or what has emerged as the status quo here. But I think to have something written in the form of a permission granted or permission denied inherently carries the prospect of changing the status quo. And I don't think that that's what you're looking to do, if what you're looking to do is to gather data. So I think some reflection and some reformulation of the questions posed, the context in which those questions are posed, in the survey instrument would probably be a good idea.
If I could,
I'm sorry.
I just want to share from just an administrator's point of view. When we see an opt-in form, our minds immediately go to implementation. How would we manage this as these forms came in? So again, I didn't realize that it was a data collection. So I feel the same way. To be very clear, if it's not an opt-in form, it's data collection. And I think just with the title, I think it could be misleading for our community if that's the case, because that's directly where my mind went was implementation as these forms would come in.
Well, let me clarify. I perhaps muddied the waters with, saying the information. I think that it would be useful information in policy making. But at the present time, in my original intention for it was to allow parents a voice in weighing in. So when you talk about the implementation, we already have this being implemented. So by you saying that, how will you implement it, you already have it implemented. So I'm just perplexed by the notion of, the questions of how we will implement something that we already have implemented. It almost, if we don't know truly how many numbers of people opt or are comfortably and rightfully opting in, how are you implementing what you're doing today? So this is this is what's difficult for me, and how are we giving, so it's technically not a permission slip, although that's a right idea about it. It is an opportunity for parents to respond. Like I gave the example of opting out of the bully survey or opting out of anything that we do. It does go into implementation. So if you're, and there were several other things that were said about, you know, this was not a decided process by the board. And I dare say that the elimination of biologically distinct restrooms was not a process by the board either. So I'm just trying to, I'm just, and you know, the United States is a representative republic. It is not a representative democracy, but we are a local school board. And we're not a representative republic in a school board. We are, in fact, a collective advocacy group for our local community. And I think that our jobs are to advocate for the voices of our constituents. And this opt-in form is intended to enable the voice of our constituents for which we advocate for. So that's my original intention, and I never, this is my 9th year on the board, and any of you who have been on the board with me for any number of years knows that if I get people to come to meetings, I'm thrilled, because I'm not here for myself, and I'm not here for my collective mind to share with 9 people. I'm here to represent the entire community. And so that's basically what I'm trying to do with my suggestion, but I am completely thankful that we were able to discuss it. And I'm also very respectful of everyone's opinion and thoughts around it. I am also extremely thankful that we will be moving forward on May 2nd with some discussion about policy, because I think it is critical that we move in that direction. There is one other thing that was said that I cannot let go unaddressed, is that, you know, the process, you know, the way that the board created the process, there was no discussion, public discussion about a process that was agreed on by this board. So I'm sorry, I disagree with that. So if you're all wanting to move it into the May 2nd meeting, thank you for listening, and I'm completely fine with that, or if we just want to move into policy discussion. Again, my intention was to give parents a voice now. Thank you.
I would move, I don't know how to, what the proper way to do this, but I would like to move it to committee, even though it's not my committee. I would like to move it to committee for 2 reasons. Number one, I think policy discussion is going to take quite some time. I don't think we're going to develop that quickly. But I think we can develop some sort of a form here that I think the 9 of us, the 10 of us, I will say, I'm sorry, Dr. Miller and the administration, I think the 10 of us can come to agreement with some sort of a form that we all deem acceptable to send out and gather information and give the parents a true voice, so we get a true feel. And I think that would be better deliberated in a committee setting where it can be much more fully vetted.
So you're talking about deliberating in committee on a form, not on a policy?
No, what I'm saying is I think that the policy is going to take quite some time to develop. I mean, we're not going to come up with a policy for a long time, let's put it that way. But I think a form, we can come up with a 1-page form that we can send out to the public, whether it be electronically or whether it be you know, hard copy, although I think electronic surveys are something that we do, and we would be able to gather that information quickly. But I think we could get it in a format that would not have necessarily some of the, for lack of a better word, and Teresa, don't take this personally, but maybe some of the shortcomings of this 1-page document that maybe we can, maybe if it's vetted by all, we can come up with a form that's more acceptable. That's all I'm saying. And I don't think we're going to be able to do that here tonight.
Greg,
is what I'm saying.
I would actually, and I'm not going to formally call the vote, but if that's a motion to table or send to committee, I would actually call a vote on this. And the reason tonight, right now, and the reason is simply that putting this form with all its issues, the fact that it wasn't developed by the board, had no solicitor review, wasn't developed by committee, describes our policy inaccurately. can't be enforced. I still don't know if it's a survey or an enforcement. It has all those issues. Why do I start my policy deliberations from this? We don't do that. I mean, that would be like saying, well, how about all 9 of us write our own little policy and then we'll all come in on May 2nd. We don't do that. This policy, and we talked about this, right? We tabled it. I tabled it because I knew we had this conversation. We brought it back up, and we're just tabling it again without advancing it. I'd rather that, you know, hearing the issues that I've heard tonight, I'd rather just call the question and vote on it so we can actually go into that policy meeting clean and assess the needs, assess what we want to do. If, you know, the committee and the board want to assess the opinion of parents further, then I think starting clean with the intention and something that does that very clean is probably better than this. There are a lot of issues with this. So I think we heard a lot of ideas about what people may want to get out of this or not, but I think we're starting in a place that it's not my form, it's not Mark's form, it's not your form, you know, and I'd rather us be able to start clean and do those things rather than start with this thing that's been out there that I think is causing a lot of confusion to people. So I'm still confused. Is it a survey or is it a permission slip? So I'd rather dismiss with this so the committee can deliberate from a clean slate.
If I may, I think from a committee's perspective and what I believe Mr. DiTullio is getting at, and looking at the structure of that committee meeting coming up on May 2nd, you know, obviously we have the staffing component at first, that'll take the first part of that. But the real intent and true intention of that meeting, as Dr. Miller indicated earlier and as Ms. Goldwell indicated as the head of that committee, was to look at where we are and to map that process from a policy perspective, as Ms. Dawson had brought up, and how we are going to get to our final conclusion. If an initial component of that is identifying what information do we, as a board and administration, need from the community relative to that policy, I think that's an absolutely appropriate discussion from a committee perspective. And then once we have that, we can also still within that meeting map the process. So I don't see this as Mr. Tullio said, we're not going to develop a policy in an hour in committee. It's going to take time and deliberation and discussion. But that is not to say that as a board, as a committee and board, that we won't identify what information the board believes it needs in order to make a reasoned and concerted move forward. It's not necessarily saying it's going to be this form or any form. It's merely let's have that discussion on how we do that data gathering, and then map our process as far as when that goes out, what we receive back, and what we do from a policy perspective going forward.
Okay, but I just want everybody to understand that the motion that's on the table is this specific form.
Correct.
Yeah.
So is there any discussion, further discussion on whether we accept this specific form or not? I mean, if we want to say we want to discuss making another form, another meeting, that's a different discussion. Right now, we have on the table this particular form to vote or table one or the other. That's
Okay.
where we need to be.
I just have a couple things to say. One, I have absolutely no interest in this form whatsoever. I have 100% interest in coming up with a policy. Now, this is my 11th year on the board, and we've followed a process that has served us well. And that's what I would like to go through, that process. Now, I've sat here and listened for the last 3 or 4 meetings, and I understand a lot of you may have not come to board meetings and are not familiar with our processes, and it may seem, and it is slow, but that is what we do. We do it consistently every time we look to create a policy or change a policy. And one last thing I would like to say, a little off topic, but I would be remiss for not saying it. You know, I've sat up here again for 3 or 4 meetings, listened, did not interrupt a single speaker out there. But I have heard numerous times the people out there attacked the character and integrity of our superintendent. I've read every email that's been sent to me, and a lot of them have done the same thing. A few items of truth here. He did not change a policy create this policy or have anything to do with the current practice that's going on. We hired him, and one thing, he has probably the most integrity and character of anyone I've ever met. I think he was a great hire for the district, and I know sincerely his number one priority are the kids. So if anything that I'll leave you with is, if you're going to speak at the end, I think he deserves an apology. And that's really all I have to say.
Can I second that?
Dr. Banyas, can I just ask a question? Because I think this gets to Peter's point and your point. We just discussed what we had as a motion in the last meeting was a motion to accept or deny this opt-in form, and it was tabled. The fact that we brought it back up tonight for discussion, the motion to accept or deny it is back up for vote, correct?
Correct.
So we have to vote on that tonight, and that goes, I think, to Peter's point. So is that next?
That's next, unless there's any further discussion on or anyone wishes to comment on.
Just one comment. I just would caution against suggesting at all that a form or any non-personal type of interaction is better than what is provided by process, and that's exactly what occurred tonight and has occurred and will continue to occur. The committee meetings are open to the public, as a reminder. I would not suggest that surveying in any shape or form is better than face-to-face communication.
So, Mr. Clare, as a matter of process, just so I get it right, if we have this on the table, we would need to vote is there an option for me to rescind the motion, or do we have to vote on the motion as it is? Because I would be very glad to rescind the opt-in.
Now, there's
form.
one I hadn't anticipated.
Bingo.
Typically, motions can be withdrawn by the consent of the body. Once somebody makes a motion and puts it on the floor, it's on the floor and it is owned by the body in its indeterminate state. So it's not a prerogative of the sponsor or the second, to withdraw, and even the second can't be withdrawn. So that might be something for you to ask your colleagues. Would they consider, as an indulgence, so to speak, to simply withdraw it?
Well, thank you. Colleagues, would you consider an option for me to rescind the opt-in form for a vote?
Sure.
I'd prefer to vote on it.
What? I'm sorry?
I'd prefer to vote on it, no.
Okay, well,
To be
you're one
honest,
person,
I
I
would.
guess. So
Yes.
how about the rest of you? Would you consider that?
I'd be open for that.
Okay.
You want what?
I'd be open for a rescind.
Yes, I'll rescind it.
I didn't hear
She
that.
wants to know if we would accept her rescinding this and not voting on it.
Will we be discussing it in the future? When you say
No,
rescinding it?
it's dead then. It's a dead deal.
It's
I'm
it's also
rescinding it.
dead if it doesn't pass.
Well,
It
I
doesn't
know, but
pass.
I'm,
Sorry, I can't hear you.
okay. I have suggested that I rescind it, and we have the option to just, I've heard that
The end result is the same,
the
correct?
end result is the same.
Whether
so-
you pull it or whether we vote it down.
Fine, I have no problem with rescinding it.
Okay. So, Mark?
I'm fine either way, frankly. I'm not afraid to vote, and I'm also not afraid, out of respect, to rescind.
Yeah, I mean, I don't care if it votes either. I was just trying to make it simple. I don't think if we're trying to be collaborative and I'm agreeing to rescind it, I think I've heard what you said, and I appreciate that you took time to listen to me. I really
Thank you.
do, sincerely. Thank you.
Motion rescinded.
It seems that the motion is withdrawn by consent.
Thank you, Mr. Clare.
Is that a first, Denny, in 11 years?
Yep, I've never seen that before.
All right.
Okay, so we're done.
I would just like to thank the board for collaborating on that and bringing that to an amicable conclusion. Reports, item 10.01.
Item 10.02, second recognition of visitors. Anyone wish to approach the board? Please, 3 minutes, okay? Please.
Thomas Drive. Okay, so first, I just want to say that basically what I'm going to be trying to doing is making comments about statements that I heard from other people that either I disagreed with or felt that I wanted to add to. So first, I just want to acknowledge that I think that everybody in this room, I think I could confidently say that we all want privacy for ourselves. If you have children, you want privacy for your children. However, we can't allow the desire for your child's privacy beyond what fulfills the basic need to impinge upon the rights of others. Privacy is a basic human right for all, not just for some. And I believe that the majority of kids already are offered privacy. As I mentioned before, I think that in the regular bathrooms they were offered privacy, but with the solution already proposed for the unisex bathrooms, I think that the issue of privacy, in my mind at least, is off the table. I mean, you can go into the bathroom, lock the door, nobody can get in. There's only one person in there, so I don't see how that wouldn't resolve the issue on both sides. Secondly, somebody said that we're the majority, why doesn't what we say matter? And that was from somebody on the side opposing me, obviously, but the minorities are important. The reason that I'm here speaking is because it's difficult for minorities to have a voice, because by the definition of minorities, there are less minorities. And Alexis de Tocqueville wrote the famous article called The Tyranny of the Majority, and that the majority opinion is able to dominate and overpower the voice of the minority. So that's why I'm here, and many of the other students were here today to speak on behalf of the minority opinion, on behalf of the transgender community. And also, I just wanted to make a comment asking, why don't students' opinions matter? That's kind of a general theme. In talking with the other students that have been here, we felt very dismissed, I guess you could say. We felt that what we were saying doesn't matter. Another parent came up here and said, the children who are up here, you know, we respect that you're here, but you don't know what it's like to be a parent. Well, what I want to say in response to the parents is, you don't know what it's like to be a student in 2016. And so while I greatly respect what the parents are saying, and I understand and greatly admire their desire to protect their children's privacy at all costs, I am a student saying that in talking to my peers, I've tried to bring this issue up to kids, and as I said before, among my peers it seems to be a non-issue. I have yet to come across anyone who's said anything to me when I've brought it up in conversation saying, I feel uncomfortable about this, or I don't want to be in the same bathroom as transgender students. And someone else got up here saying, these students are all over 15, you know, they aren't the future of Pine-Richland, but I mean, we're here right now. I'd like to see where the students are that are on the other side, because we're passionate enough about this issue to come out and talk about it. So I think our voice should matter, and you should respect what we say and value what we say, because we are the people who are actually being affected by this. I understand parents are taxpayers and you have to appease them, but we're the students being affected by this. So, and I know it's kind of taboo to say, but like, let's be realistic that you want to please the taxpayers, but the students are the ones who actually are living this. And quite honestly, as a student, I would feel ashamed to have gone to Pine-Richland since kindergarten and to know that the school board, that the community is openly saying that separate is equal, that it's okay to separate transgender students and put them into separate bathrooms and say you aren't able to be who you want to be, to say that they are dangerous individuals when just like all of us, we're human beings. Can we just take a minute and realize that every single one of us in here is a human being, that every single one of us deserves our basic human rights, deserves the rights given to us by the Declaration of Independence, by the Constitution, you know, all those documents, that we have our basic rights.
Okay, please summarize.
Okay, so just to summarize, I just think that we need to take a step back and realize that people are here saying this isn't about about transgender students, but then tell me what it is about. If it's about privacy, I firmly believe, as do I think I can speak on behalf of most students, not all, that the unisex bathrooms, I think, solve the issue. If you're uncomfortable, you have a choice to use the unisex bathroom. You aren't forced to, you have the choice. So I just think that the unisex bathroom resolves the issue, and we just need to take a step back and realize we're all human beings and deserve our human rights. Thank you.
Thank you.
Jay Danucci. And I don't know if this can be conversational, but Mr. Sundo, if I am incorrect, I will be the first to apologize. I just want to make sure my understanding is correct, because there's a lot out there, there's a lot of communications, there's a website, but I'm more confused now by your statement and maybe some of the things that I heard tonight. So if I can, I just want to ask the board.
This typically is not conversational, but
Okay.
all I'll say is this. Obviously, I've been on the board 11 years. I'm part of the executive committee, and I'm well aware there's been a lot of misinformation said over these 4 meetings, and that certainly was a big part of the misinformation given. Where it came from, I have no idea. All I know is what's the truth.
Okay, so in respect to that, my understanding from some of the things that were discussed tonight, I believe that Mr. Rittenhour mentioned, that what was in place had been in place for, I believe, approximately 3 years. I also heard some of the collaboration between the board tonight that gave me, and I believe others in the room, the impression that the attention and the private and public discussion of this policy really hasn't been talked about in a way prior to the communications that came out in the last 4 or 5 weeks. So did the board have the meetings, and was the communications that came to the community under the name of Dr. Miller communicating this new policy? Did you in fact discuss it publicly and privately, vote on it, and go through the process that you talk about is very deliberate, and I think an important part of what you guys do for us?
No, there was no policy. It was an existing practice that we became aware of about the same time the community became aware of it, and we realized that this was going on, and the community wanted a policy. And that's what we're trying to go through right now, is to discuss a policy going through our normal processes. And we have had people come to our meeting, and again, they have not come to, really don't know how we work, expecting things to be passed on the spot, and it just doesn't work that way.
So and then I'll get down. It just seems to me that if a practice has been taking place that isn't a legal practice, and it's not a practice that's ever been documented, it's never been communicated, and quite honestly, seems like it's been misunderstood, why would we continue with an existing practice that is getting so much discussion?
Well, that's why we're going to make a policy, sir. I mean, realizing that this practice is out there and it needs a policy, that's what we're trying to come up with.
But it seems like we've endorsed the practice as policy until we can let the policy catch up with the practice.
I'll tell you what, if it was the other way, we'd be doing the same thing. If the opposite was the existing practice, that would be continuing on until we came up with a policy to address it.
Nobody, if however you guys would come up with your survey or information gathering, I would believe that you would have an overwhelming response that the practice that is in place is totally, by a great percentage, misunderstood and not what many people in this district believe is the current practice. And so we're letting the policy and the discussion, and deliberate as it must be, take place while that practice is still in place, which is nowhere been documented. None of us knew that this practice was happening until that letter came out, and now we're going to wait until this process, I think the term was used in the opening remarks of glacial, which now I think means slow and deliberate, and that's great, but we're still letting these things go on until a policy comes with it.
Obviously, you've heard we've set up some meetings real quick. We realize that the community wants action taken. Again, we're going to go through our process, but we're all aware we need to fast track this.
Okay. So is it too much to ask, or even can be considered, that until the policy is determined, and I can speak for myself, I would respect what that determination is after the due process is gone through, but any consideration to going back and maybe putting some guidelines around the acceptable use of these 3 sets of bathrooms that are available to all of our students. Because right now, I don't think there is. And certain students, a certain subset of students can use more than another set of students. And that doesn't seem fair either.
Now, I understand what you're saying, but part of us, this Thursday night, we're going to have an educational session. I know I personally would need an educational session. This is new to me.
And as it is for all of us. So it just
I'm-
seems
I'm
like the
hesitant-
practice.
As I said before, I'm hesitant to change any existing practice until I become more informed and we're able to, and I think other board members feel this way too, is they want to become more informed.
It
But
seems-
we can't just go change something haphazardly.
But the board has acknowledged openly here tonight that the understanding of the practice was held by a very, very small percentage of the people sitting up there, and was only informed of the practice at the same time that we were. 4 weeks ago, 5 weeks ago.
And we're taking action to come up with, going through our proper procedures.
It just seems to be
We could have
backwards
sat there and done nothing.
Nor we could go back to what the understanding and what we believe the acceptable understanding is of what was happening in the school district to protect the privacy of our children all along. I
know
seems like
we have
all
a difference
found out
of
about it for
opinion.
4
Our
weeks. I
president
just
wanted
asked
to
to
know how long
consider
I was
that.
going to go on with. I do appreciate your thoughts, sir.
Shaver, 514 Colony Court. And I just want to let you all know that I really appreciate the idea of letting the parents have a voice, the idea of a survey that wouldn't just be a one question and one answer, but a survey that really goes deep into the beliefs and the feelings of the parents. And I also think it's important to hear from the students. I know I myself have 2 students in the middle school, both of whom feel very strongly about the whole process and what's taking place. But I also know that often when faced with their peers, they haven't yet developed the confidence to speak their side. So I would hope that as you look to put into place a survey that would look to the adults in the community, that you would also give a private and anonymous opportunity for the students to really voice how they feel about the situation, both males and females. And I would love to know also if there's a place where concerned parents can go to get truth about the process, about what is happening. I heard someone mention a website earlier. Is that something that was set up by you all, or is that just concerned parents? I'm getting information from my neighborhood Facebook page. I'm getting information from here, there, and everywhere, and it certainly doesn't line up with a lot of what I've heard tonight. So I didn't know if there was just one place that you would recommend parents go to get an agenda or a timeline, not of when the decision's going to be made, but of what other opportunities there are to come and learn. I would have been at the previous 3 meetings had I known that the topic was being discussed. I feel like I learned about it rather late, and I'm not suggesting it's the fault of any of you. It may be me. Maybe I didn't read through all the emails properly. But just if there was a website or somewhere where you could go to know they're talking to the students this day, you're going to be hearing from someone this day, to give us an opportunity to participate more would greatly be appreciated. I also just wanted clarity to find out if this is just something that's being discussed with students, or if there's a gym teacher who decides that they're transgendered, are adults also then going to be allowed to be using the locker rooms or bathroom facilities? Is that something that's been discussed, or is that something that's being taken into consideration? Because earlier it was made known that some of the, or at least this is what I understood, is that some of the teachers' bathrooms have been converted to unisex bathrooms. Is this where students and now adults are sharing the same facilities? And those are just some of the questions I have, but also just really wanted to say, as a parent, I would absolutely love an opportunity to fill out a more lengthy survey that really took multiple things into consideration, where we did feel like our voices were heard. Thank you.
Thank you. We, the official Pine-Richland website does have our meetings on it. Our educational meeting, our student services meeting, is this Thursday, and on May 2nd we'll be having a beginning of the staff services committee meeting. So that much I can pass on to you. These other websites were not sanctioned by the board or the district that we know of.
So, to your knowledge, then, they may or may not have information on them that's accurate.
We are not responsible for websites that are not ours.
Okay.
The people who make those websites are responsible for that information.
Okay, thank
Yeah,
you.
I would also add, we have a meeting on April 25th, which is a Finance Committee meeting. And I know it is not this particular topic, but it is a critical meeting that has significant impact on our district as well. So as Mr. Stegman mentioned, committee meetings are open to the public, and they all have important agendas. And so often practice in the district is there's 2 regular meetings a month. There are typically at least 2 committee meetings a month, and they happen usually from 6 to 7:30 prior to the regular meeting. There are significant topics of discussion at each of those meetings, so you're certainly welcome to attend all of them, and I would encourage all to attend a finance meeting on the 25th.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
First, I want to say that I do know what it's like to be a student. I was a student. I was an ethnic student that couldn't speak English. I went through the ridicule. I got through it. No big deal. I hope someday you're able to know what it's like to be a parent. I know Mr. Reitnauer would defend his daughter's rights to his last breath. You would be the same way if you were a parent. Believe me. You would have a totally different attitude about everything. So I wanted to say that. Number 2, Dr. Miller, I wish you would have never told me that we're only getting $1.4 million from the federal government. I'd like to give it back. 22,000 residents, $64 a pop. Let's get our food back to our kids the way we want it and get the federal government away from us. Number 3, you talk about you want to come up with a policy. I don't understand what you need to talk about. I think you're down to 2 choices. You're either going to displace the many students that have been using the same bathrooms that they've always been using, or you're going to displace the 3 or the very few. And it's not even the bathrooms I'm that concerned about. It's the shower facilities and everything else, the travel, the band trips. It's all those things. Now, I know you always have to defend the minority. So go ahead and make your policy, start building the facilities to handle the waves of students that are not going to use the boys in bathrooms using right now. You're going to need many unisex, whatever you want to call them. We're starting new bathrooms all over again. But what you're going to find is, whoa, we're being discriminated against. We're getting pushed over to this side. They're going to want those new bathrooms. And then we're going to start this process all over again. I don't think you really need to drag your feet. I know I'm simplifying this, but it's really that simple. I don't see how you have but one of those 2 options. And how long are you going to argue over that? I have no idea.
Thank you, sir.
Christina Seghetti, 205 Crawford Court in Mars. As he just said, I'd like to kind of go off of that. He was saying that, of course, like, he was a student, and I don't think we're trying to say that these parents were never students, 'cause obviously they were, but times have changed. It's 2016. School now is really different than it used to be, and the things that people are experiencing now are things that they used to not have to deal with because those issues weren't brought to light. And because those issues are brought to light and we're in a more progressive society where we're moving forward and accepting more things, then I think it's time for the school to meet that and also like move in the same direction that the world is moving. And it's unfair for us to stay behind and not meet the accommodations of the students who are going to grow up in this forever changing world. So I think also a lot of parents might think that we don't appreciate their concern or point of view, and of course we do, and I appreciate that parents are really concerned about our safety, and I think it's really great that they're here to talk about what could potentially happen, but again, as a student perspective, like things that some adults are suggesting, such as rape, like that's just not accurate. That's never happened, and I don't think it's likely to happen. And I think, of course, it's important to be proactive, because if something like that were to happen, it could be the schools, like the school could be held accountable for that because of the way the bathrooms are set up. But at the same time, like it doesn't feel likely, and I feel like it's not an excuse because it is, of course, a possibility, but it's always been a possibility regardless of how the bathrooms are set up. Someone could just walk into the guy's bathroom, or the girl's bathroom, whatever bathroom, and something could happen. And so changing this and allowing anyone to go in the bathroom they identify with isn't going to increase or decrease the likelihood. just going to allow more people to be free. And it's not taking away any freedoms from the kids that are not transgender. It's not. And I mean, it's unfair to say like, oh, well now our kids are gonna have to go in the unisex bathroom because they're uncomfortable. Well, we can't force this other group to go into their own bathrooms. That really is segregation. That is the definition of segregation. And so I just hope that 20 years from now, this won't be a topic of discussion and we'll look at this and we'll think, wow, I can't believe that that's the state that we are at. And I just really think and hope that the school board does appreciate student opinion, because of course the adults are very important and they're looking out for our safety and they think that we may not be mature enough to know what we're talking about. But when we are the ones here in the building and we are the ones going to the bathroom, I think our opinions should matter. And maybe since you're saying you want to take the parents' opinions and send out this form and see what they think, maybe it's important to send that out to the students as well and really get what they think, because we are the ones that are using these facilities. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, Mike Monaco, 508 Jenny Drive. My big issue with this entire thing is, why do we have to be this spectacle? Why does Pine-Richland have to be that school that's out at the forefront of this right now? I mean, I don't understand, you know, why we're doing this. It's all over the news. North Carolina, it's a big issue. Everyone that I work with, the first thing now with Pine-Richland used to be academics, used to be some of the great sports teams. Now what we're talking about is transgenders using the bathrooms. I don't think it's the right thing, the right time for us to even be discussing this. But if it's on the table, then I think that everyone in our community should have a vote on how you guys vote. I think reaching out to the parents, to the taxpayers, makes more sense than anything. You know, I understand that the silent majority, and I understand that we want to be progressive, but some people don't like progressive. I mean, progressive could be taken 10, 20 different ways. So, and I think it needs to be simple. We don't need opt-in, opt-out, you know, legalese. Keep it simple for the people. You know, do you want your child to share a bathroom with someone that identifies on a certain day with the opposite sex? Do you want that or don't you want that? Yes or no? It's that simple. Dr. Miller, and I'm paraphrasing, you made the comment that someone can't wake up in the morning and determine that they're going to use the girls' bathroom or the boys' bathroom. How can you even police that? Because maybe that person that day does feel that way. Maybe that's the first day that they're going to come out and they want to use the other bathroom. You can't have it both ways. You can't say, well, it's all right for you because you identified this 6 months ago, but you're coming in here today, and guess what? No, that's off limits. You can't do that. And Mr. Sundo, I believe, as far as sitting up there telling anybody that they owe anyone on that board an apology for anything, I mean, you're an elected official. You should have thick enough skin to put up with any criticism, good, bad, and different. But to demand an apology out of people, nah, that's not right. You ought to be embarrassed to even ask for it.
Thank you, sir.
Hi, I'm Erica Ridenauer. I just want to say thank you for really taking your time to understand everybody's opinions, because this is a discussion that needs to be discussed. And times are changing. We are in the 21st century. So I just really want to thank everyone for taking their time to understand everyone.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thanks.
I'll make this short. Number one, I appreciate and thank Dr. Miller for the privacy that he's afforded our family in this whole situation, up until now, of course. Also, I appreciate the board's especially the solicitor's clarification on this opt-in policy. I actually saw it on the Parents United website, read through it. I talk about clarity, and I had no idea what was going on. But obviously, I think what the expectation was that because of that instrument, action would be taken. And then somebody's saying it's a survey. Well, obviously, it's not a survey. Somebody's being able to asked to take action and do something. So that aside. And also, I don't know, when I hear the term biology and biological sex, my daughter here, it's biology. She has a female brain. There's some science to back that up with. I think we're going to hear more about it on Thursday, but it's biology. It's not just about genitals, okay? So I also wanted people to take a moment, everybody in the room here, to take a moment to consider how much energy is being expended by everybody here on a matter where there is no existent threat. It's only a perceived threat at this point. The community would be better served if the administration and the board could perhaps focus on how to handle a real life and death crisis that is rapidly taking hold of this region. And according to the University of Pittsburgh data, there were nearly 400 drug overdose deaths in Allegheny County just last year. And I think I just heard a report on the radio, 500 statewide this year alone. So it's on, it kind of goes, that's a little tangent, but I hope that's on your horizon. I hope that's something you're really considering, that is an actual life and death matter. Also, I want to say, what if this goes to the next step? What if the next step litigation is proceeded on this particular matter? Is the district really ready to and prepared to take on the financial burden involved with that when we can't even provide a phys ed program for the students beyond 9th grade? Is that really where we want to put our money? Especially considering the way society is going with gay marriage last year being legalized on a federal level. And, you know, there are, as was pointed out, there are some pending matters, pending litigation in the courts that could rule this whole thing moot by tomorrow, you know, if those decisions were made. So just it doesn't seem like this is a really wise use of our time. But anyway, I appreciate the opportunity to speak. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Dan Smith, Gibsonia. I just wanted to make a couple quick points. Who's running the school? Is it the adults or is it the kids? When kids are at a young age, they're going through a lot of issues. And what better way to rebel against your parents than to change your gender? If you want to go ahead and rebel, changing your gender is probably something you can do. But what I wanted to say is, if we set a precedent and we start changing the rules and changing the whole bathroom policy, how's it going to look to the rest of the nation? Other schools will have to follow. The schools that don't are going to look down upon, and they're going to be looked at as discriminatory and racist. The adults have to set boundaries. Kids need structure. Kids need boundaries. I have a 9-year-old son. He would come home from school. He would want to watch TV, he'd want to play video games, he'd want to go out and play. He would not want to do homework. So we tried something. We thought that it would be good to have him play and do video games, watch TV, and then he could do his homework after. It wasn't working. So we set a boundary that he does his homework right after school. And at first he fought. But you know what? He was at his best at that period. It took a little while, but no longer did I have to ask him to do his homework after school. He knew it. He knew that was the rules, that was the structure. And it got to the point where he was happy. doing his homework because he knew he got it done, he didn't have to do it later, and then he could go out and play. Kids need structure, kids need boundaries. If you facilitate actions, it's not going to set a boundary. It's only going to reinforce behavior, which deep down, it may not be what they want. They may want a boundary. They might want a structure. Down the road, if they truly believe they want to be transgender, of course, go ahead with that. But at such a young age, do you really want to commit to something like that? And especially with some kids, I've heard, under the age of 15, 16, getting the surgery for gender surgery. I mean, that's life-changing. You can't change and go back. So coming from a health background as a professional, I think we need to set this straight, think clear about what we're doing, and as far as funding from the government, we should not let that stop us from making decisions for our kids. Let's set an example to the rest of the nation and not accept the funding if that's truly what we believe should be right. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Hopefully I'm the last one. I know it's late. My name is Jennifer Stout, 1077 High Meadows Drive. I'm new to this as well. I have 2 young children at hand, so I'm actually the vice president of the PTO, so I'm somewhat familiar with people not attending meetings and how that can be frustrating, as was expressed this evening. My question, just as I'm trying to learn information from the Facebook pages, from the website, from people talking, I said, I want to get both sides of the story and I want to understand. And the thing that is still unclear to me, and I would love to have clarification, is when this policy was first changed 3 years ago, who made that change happen? We've heard different things. Dr. Miller's been accused of it. We've heard that there was no discussion. Where did it come from initially? Because if we're moving forward to change policy, and there's committees and discussions that are going to take place, I would love to have confidence in you that the policy will be changed, as opposed to just a policy. To me, and again, I am misinformed, I do not come to meetings very often, it just popped out of nowhere for us. And it seems like there's no information that I can find, again, to back up the parent. If there's a timeline, when this was voted on and approved on, I would love to see it so I can be more educated and informed myself. Thank you.
Thank you. Does anybody else wish to approach the board? Do I have a motion to adjourn?
Moved.
We're adjourned. Thank you.